Chapter 2283. Heisha said, "You should know that you can't escape." That's right. 2 late-stage heaven-opening realm powerhouses and nearly 10 celestial transformation realm powerhouses. With just 2 babies, how could they escape? At this time, an old man walked out from the void behind Feng Xingliu. The old man smiled faintly. "Child, the 10,000-year grand competition is just this cruel. The competition is one thing, but whether or not you can participate is another. This little girl has a born Dao constitution. If this news spreads, you won't even be able to leave the Singing Sea area, let alone the divine capital dynasty." Heisha said, "Hey, Old Li, don't worry about this. I promised you a divine artifact and divine skill." The old man chuckled. "And a favor?" Heisha nodded. He had been secretly hunting this kid. After 7 hunts, this kid had taken out 13 protective jade slips. This little girl was even more amazing. She seemed to have an endless supply of treasures. If he let him go this time, it would be even harder to catch him. Therefore, he had no choice but to cooperate with this old guy from the Valley of Wind. With the 2 of them working together and the help of Heisha, he would take down this kid in one fell swoop. Feng Xingliu's eyes were burning with anger. He had used up most of his protective jade slips in the past few decades. Now, he only had a late-stage star transformation realm jade slip and an emperor jade slip each for Feng Qingqing. But he didn't dare to use the emperor jade slip. It would be fine if he used it somewhere else, but this place was too close to the divine capital dynasty, and there were emperors guarding the sea area. If he used it, he wouldn't be able to control what would happen next. He said, "I can give you the divine artifact, divine skill, alien flame, but if you want my sister, I'll kill you first." Feng Qingqing frowned. This idiot. If he really gave it to them, it would be over. However, the old man smiled faintly and said, "Using the sovereign jade slip is no different from courting death. Kid, if you dare to use it even if I die, I will accept it." Heisha said, "Kid, I only want the born Dao seed. I won't take her life. That's my bottom line." After he finished speaking, the divine soul of the squad leader, Old Qin, was crushed with a bang. However, he did not die. Presumably, Heisha did not want to cause any unnecessary disturbances. He said, "You have 10 breaths of time to consider. Otherwise, I can send these ants on their way first." Shameless. Feng Xingliu's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, he had almost no way out. No matter what, it was impossible for him to hand Feng Qingqing over. Otherwise, his great Dao would collapse. Feng Qingqing took out a red jade scroll that was flickering with a fiery light. As soon as they saw the jade slip, the black shark man and the old man backed up a few steps. Although they were tempted by the divine artifacts and divine techniques, they could not resist Feng Qingqing's connate Taoism aptitude. Of course, they knew that these 2 people had extraordinary backgrounds, but so what? At their level of strength, if they were able to seize a born Taoism aptitude and seize the path, then they would have a high chance of proving their Dao. If he could prove his Dao, why would he be afraid of revenge? Therefore, even though Feng Qingqing had taken out the Emperor Jade Slip, they still did not retreat. Feng Qingqing said, "Worst comes to worst. If the Jade Slip is broken, you 2 will die. As for us, we might not." As the 2 sides were in a stalemate, Heisha and the old man suddenly sensed something. Their gazes landed in the direction of the black shark. However, a young man appeared out of thin air. It was because his speed was too fast. Under superluminal speed, he instantly traversed millions of miles and arrived here. As soon as the young man appeared, the cultivators on the black shark were shocked. The young man said, "Hey, strictly speaking, I have a born Taoism aptitude too. Do you 2 want one? You 2 can have one each. It's a great deal." Feng Xingliu was startled. What was going on? Why did someone come here to give it to him? Feng Qingqing tilted her head and looked at the young man. She was lost in thought. Heisha squinted and said, "Who are you?" Just as he was speaking, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. A strange power seemed to be imprinting itself onto his soul, causing him to subconsciously retreat. The next second, he saw the space was twisted. When he looked again, he saw that the members of the team that Black Shark had controlled had all teleported to a place not far from Phoenix Star Stream. The young man was nowhere to be seen on the Black Shark. Han Fei thought to himself, "Fortunately, I have the Gemini Divine Technique. Otherwise, I don't know how to save people from a late-stage heaven-opening state cultivator." He Sha was angry, but he soon recognized Han Fei's real realm. You really don't know your place. This fire-wielding boy is at least a star-turning cultivator. How dare you, a boy who hasn't turned into a star-turning cultivator, get involved in this?" The old man was also a little surprised. Indeed, he hasn't turned into a star-turning cultivator. You can burst out at 5 times the speed of light without turning into a star-turning cultivator. It seems that you are also a heavenly talent who came to participate in the 10,000 years competition. The old man frowned. This kind of heavenly talent was the most extraordinary and had a lot of treasures. The old man chuckled. "Are you really a born Taoism aptitude?" Han Fei grinned. "What's there to hide? You're just a born Taoism aptitude. Is it worth it for me to hide it?" Feng Xinglu couldn't help but look at Han Fei. "Why is there someone more pretentious than me? You speak as if the born Taoism aptitude are cabbages. Also, what's your realm? Why are you here if you haven't turned into a star-turning cultivator? Do you want to die?" Feng Qingqing's eyes flashed. He seems quite strong. This guy really has no fear. She could even sense Han Fei's extremely powerful soul. How could a person who hasn't turned into a star-turning cultivator have such a powerful soul? Also, how did he save people just now? Han Fei clicked his tongue and looked at Feng Xinglu. "Are you Feng Xinglu?" Feng Xinglu's eyes widened and he looked at Han Fei in shock. He had been using the name Lu Xing all the way here and never Feng Xinglu. How did this guy know? Also, even if you know, why the hell did you expose my real name? Feng Xinglu asked. "Who are you?" Han Fei didn't answer but continued to look at the plain-looking girl with big eyes. "Are you Feng Qingqing?" Feng Qingqing sucked in a breath of air and bowed. "Who are you?" Han Fei got the answer from her expression and said, "Someone is very angry that you snuck out. He asked me to kick your butts and make you not blink." Hiss! Feng Xinglu and Feng Qingqing trembled, and a figure appeared in front of them at the same time. However, they really didn't understand. That guy should still be far away, right? This guy, who is he? Han Fei flipped his hand and took out a fiery long knife, which made Feng Xingliu's eyes almost pop out. Feng Qingqing even widened her eyes. "My sister's phoenix feather saber? Where did you get it?" Han Fei chuckled and didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at He Sha and the old man and said, "This is also a divine artifact. Do you want it?" Then, Han Fei extended his hands and a pair of boxing gloves appeared in his hands. Then he said, "This is also a set of divine artifacts. I'm not bragging. I have a full set of divine artifacts. Do you want them?" Han Fei chuckled. "My shortcoming is that I don't like to carry protective jade slips because no one has ever given me one. Guys, how about we fight for 30,000 rounds?" For a moment, He Sha and the old man didn't know how to deal with it because they didn't know what Han Fei was up to. This guy dared to shout before turning into a star. He could move 5 times the speed of light without turning into a star. He had multiple divine artifacts without turning into a star. And he dared to challenge a cultivator in the advanced stage of the star transformation realm without turning into a star. None of these seemed normal. Feng Xinglu looked at this guy speechlessly. "Are you here to show off? I can show off my wealth to you. You only have 2 divine artifacts, and you dare to show off? Believe it or not, I'll accidentally drop more divine artifacts than you do." He Sha snorted. "You're just bluffing. I'd like to see how a guy who hasn't turned into a star is qualified to challenge my black shark." Then, He Sha directly launched a punch, as if he wanted to kill Han Fei with one punch. At this time, the power of heaven and earth was added to Han Fei's body. When Han Fei put on the god-slaying gloves, his combat power increased by 30%. When Han Fei wore the divine prayer beads around his neck, his combat power increased by 10%. Because of the balance of his body, Han Fei could borrow the power of heaven and earth to increase his strength by 50%. With this superposition, Han Fei's combat power almost doubled. His strength exceeded 10 million waves. How could it be a joke? In the past, he had to use the Great Tao to burst out such strong combat power, but now he was still in his original body. If it were any other time, Han Fei would definitely go up to fight like this. However, this time he was here to save people. Although his strength exceeded 10 million waves, the other party was in the advanced stage of the star transformation realm after all, and his origin sea was definitely larger than his. He didn't know how long he had been since he turned into a star. In this case, even if Han Fei's strength doubled, he might not be afraid of the other party, but he might be beaten up by him. He was here to save people. How could he let the person he saved watch him being beaten up? Therefore, Han Fei used the Great Tao again, but he didn't dare to use it with all his strength. Otherwise, his body might not be able to withstand it and would explode from the infinite power. Therefore, Han Fei only doubled his strength, ready to test the other party's strength first. At this moment, Han Fei held the phoenix feather frenzied knife in his hand and slashed. The sea split apart and the void exploded. Clang bing. Han Fei and He Sha flew back 1,000 miles almost at the same time. Hiss! He Sha was shocked. You're telling me that he hasn't turned into a star? Then what does he want after turning into a star? Feng Xingliu was also shocked. Where did this weirdo come from? How could he be so strong without turning into a star? It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Is this person more talented than me? Impossible. I can't accept this reality. Feng Qingqing's eyes lit up, and many words suddenly popped up in her head. Talented, peerless heavenly talent, comparable to my sister, only seen once in 10,000 years. He really has a connate Taoist aptitude. Even as the old man was shocked, he made a move to attack Feng Xinglu. However, a blood fiend's body quietly blocked his path. Han Fei said leisurely, "Old guy, don't be hasty. I'm here to save people. If you don't hit me, I'll lose face." The old man looked solemn. After a blow from the blood demon, he said in shock, "A blood demon puppet at the peak of the star transformation realm." Chapter 2284. Ever since Han Fei ran out of the god's ruin, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. He was a world of difference from before he entered the god's ruin. Although his body and soul hadn't been strengthened much, his foundation was extremely solid. His origin sea had expanded to 400,000 miles, and he had cultivated the sun god. The advantages of the Tao of equilibrium were also reflected. As soon as Han Fei made a move, he defeated a late-stage star transformation cultivator, which stunned Feng Xingliu. Although these two had extraordinary backgrounds, they didn't expect to meet a heavenly talent of this level. They didn't even know such a heavenly talent. Oh no, there were two. If he thought about it carefully, there were indeed two people in his life who had this kind of abnormal talent and could be said to have strange combat strength. That was Feng Yu, the woman they couldn't describe, the strongest heavenly talent in the history of their clan. They didn't know if the other person counted, but he wasn't from their clan. Feng Xingliu glanced at Feng Qingqing, dumbfounded. Are you serious? That level? Feng Qingqing pursed her thin lips. He should be at the same level as my sister. If he can really defeat He Sha, he might even be on the heaven roll of a state. Feng Xingliu's eyes widened. That's unbelievable. Feng Qingqing said, "You don't read much. Some young disciples of the divine heritage families have ancestral bloodlines, some have divine heritage inheritances, and some are born with Taoist aptitudes. We came to the divine East Sea this time to see the heroes, the talented experts, and the descendants of the divine heritage. Maybe this is the first one we'll see." Seeing Feng Qingqing's beautiful eyes shining, Feng Xingliu said with a dark face, "Hey, why are your eyes shining? Why are you smiling? Aren't you afraid that he'll lose?" Feng Qingqing shook her head. "How can a person who can make my sister give him a phoenix feather longsword? If he's really talented, maybe he can be my brother-in-law." Feng Xingliu couldn't help but murmur. Flaunting his wealth as soon as they met? Would Feng Yu like him? While Feng Xingliu curled his lips, Han Fei had already put away the wind and rain longsword. He said he would pretend to be from the Fist Radiance Mountain. How could he keep using a sword? I'll hit. Han Fei launched a counterattack, and the golden fist mark burst out at the speed of light, carrying a strange aura. He Sha sneered. Even if you have a secret technique, how long can it last? Old Zhou, don't tell me you can be stopped by a puppet? As He Sha spoke, he struck out with his fists. He also walked the path of body tempering and cultivated the black dragon fist art. He could strike out with the miraculous scene of 100 dragons rampaging. Bang, 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 dong, dong, dong. However, when the two fists collided, Hazer felt unwell. It was as though he saw a supreme devil shadow. He couldn't see the features of the shadow, and there seemed to be a path in front of him. It was as though as long as he walked on it, he would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the gods. Path of God. He Sha's breathing quickened, but he couldn't see the divine path for long before he was awakened by the piercing pain in his divine soul. It turned out that each of Han Fei's punches carried a strange power that seemed to be directly imprinted on his soul. He could only feel slight discomfort from the first two punches, but in an instant, thousands of punches collided. He felt as if his soul was being baptized and purified by lightning. In just this round of confrontation, his soul was dissipating, and he was almost possessed. What kind of fist technique is this? He Sha was horrified. Han Fei not only almost made him lose himself in the so-called path of God, but also directly attacked his divine soul. How could he go on like this? His body could withstand the attacks, but his divine soul would be shattered. If that happened, his combat power would plummet and he would be in danger. However, this didn't scare He Sha away, but made him realize that he couldn't fight Han Fei in close combat. Han Fei's strength was no weaker than his, and his divine soul could endlessly pierce through his divine soul. Immediately, He Sha retreated and stomped on the ground. A black shadow thousands of meters high emerged in the sea. Rakshasa divine body, dark curse. A Dharma body? Han Fei was sure that this was a Dharma body. When the Dharma body merged with He Sha, it would become a Dharma idol. On the black shark, countless people exclaimed. Rakshasa divine body. Boss is using a Dharma body? Who is this guy? How could he push Boss to this point? Feng Xingliu's team was the most frightened. Old Qin, the captain, couldn't help but exclaim as soon as his body was rebuilt, Rakshasa divine body? The Rakshasa divine body ranked 1000 on the Dharma idol list. Feng Qingqing snorted slightly. It's not even in the top 100. How dare you show it off? Feng Xingliu said, Hey, it's also a Dharma body. Does anyone have one? Feng Qingqing said, I'm not afraid of him without a Dharma body. Hardly had Feng Qingqing said that when a giant thousands of meters high rose from the ground. This giant was shining with golden light. It was Han Fei himself. Many people exclaimed, He has a Dharma body too? What kind of Dharma body is that? Why is he in a Dharma body? Why does this Dharma body look exactly like this man? Feng Xingliu's eyes widened. Feng Qingqing exclaimed and said, A world of Dharma idol. He has merged with a Dharma body. Even if he has merged with the worst Dharma body, it's still a Dharma idol. No Dharma body can compare to it. This was the first time that Han Fei had seen a Dharma body other than the firmament martial divine body. For some reason, when Han Fei saw the Rakshasa's Dharma body, his throat moved. He felt a little hungry. However, Han Fei, in the state of a world of Dharma idol, still blasted out a lot of golden fist marks. He Sha roared in his heart. Even if Han Fei had a Dharma body, he hadn't turned into a star yet. How could he fight him? Dumb. Compared to the battle between Han Fei and He Sha, the battle between Xue Sha and the old man surnamed Zhou seemed a bit unremarkable. As for Feng Xingliu, he had nothing to do. He thought he was going to die a moment ago, but in the next moment, a thug showed up. Besides, this thug was showing off his wealth, arrogant, and ferocious. But for some reason, his character was a bit similar to Feng Yu's. He Sha shouted crazily, Rakshasa blood devour. A thick black mist burst out with strong corrosive power. When Han Fei's fist marks touched it, he felt that his flesh and blood were being corroded. Humph! Heavenly opening, dong. A divine pillar fell from the sky, and a large amount of black mist was directly purified. Han Fei's fist marks rained down and blew part of He Sha's soul out of his body. For some reason, Han Fei only felt hungrier and hungrier. He didn't even realize that the Dharma body that he controlled was growing bigger and bigger. He didn't come back to himself until it grew to more than 2,000 meters. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Han Fei clasped the Rakshasa's Dharma body with both hands. He Sha detonated the phantoms crazily, trying to shatter the Dharma body. But his hands were restrained by the enemy's power. With a thought, Han Fei extended 2 golden arms from his Dharma body, grabbed the Rakshasa's Dharma body, and suddenly bit it. Hiss! Seeing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How could it be bitten? Feng Xingliu was also confused. She looked at Feng Qingqing and asked, "What's going on? Isn't the Dharma body made of the power of heaven and earth? Did he eat He Sha's Dharma body?" Feng Qingqing was a bit confused. She opened her mouth and said, "I don't know. The Dharma body is a kind of power that the body borrows. This isn't mentioned in the books." Chilla puff, puff, puffed for giant hands and one mouth suddenly tore He Sha's Dharma body apart. Chomp, chomp, seeing that the Rakshasa's Dharma body was about to disappear, Han Fei opened his mouth and bit something. There seemed to be a kind of power in the world that was being swallowed by him. Then Han Fei suddenly felt that the power of his virtual world seemed to have increased, and his combat power was increased by 10%. What? Han Fei was a bit confused. He cultivated the Dharma body mainly with the second divine elixir. At that time, the Dharma world could only increase his strength by 30%. He had used it a lot, but it was the first time that he wanted to swallow someone else's Dharma body for no reason. Han Fei couldn't help but recall that the Dharma body he comprehended at the beginning was fusing with the firmament martial divine body. Han Fei's heart suddenly trembled. Seriously? He remembered that the second divine elixir said that to comprehend the Dharma world, one should use the body as the law, the body as the Dharma, the body as the Dharma body, the 9 heavens above one's head, the feet on the abyssal sea. The Dharma body should be 33,000 meters high, and the Dharma body should swallow all forms into the original form. Before, he had never understood the true meaning of swallowing all forms into the original form, but now it seemed that something was wrong. If he hadn't met this person, he probably wouldn't have known that he could eat someone else's Dharma body. Pu He Sha's 7 orifices were bleeding, and his hair was disheveled. He was going crazy. Who the hell is this guy? Why is he fighting so unreasonable? Does this Dharma body even have food? At this moment, although Han Fei was surprised, his hands didn't stop. The enormous body of 20,000 meters high was punching at He Sha with 4 fists. Although He Sha's Dharma body was destroyed, he was not completely defenseless. However, the original purpose of summoning the Dharma body was to block Han Fei's weird fists. Now, his Dharma body was destroyed, and Han Fei's fists were like falling stars. Even if he could block them, he didn't want his soul to be destroyed by the opponent. At this time, old Zhou, who had failed to break through the blood demon realm, screamed, "He Sha, I'm done. You can play by yourself." The old man realized that something was wrong, because in this major competition of 100,000 years, many strong masters would try to hunt the strong masters who came to participate in the competition in the past 10,000 years. They didn't hunt before because there used to be only one realm, the Pioneer Sea state. This time, there were 3 realms of Venerable, Pioneer Sea, and Pioneer Heaven. They knew that the participating Pioneer Heaven state must be extraordinary, so many people tried to hunt. However, this didn't mean that they could really hunt and scrupulously. These people were too strong, especially the last one, who hadn't turned into a star state, but he was suppressing He Sha. How many heavenly talents of this level were there in the divine East Sea? According to this kind of foundation, where did he come from? How could the force behind him not have left him a backup plan? Even the venerable emperor might not be afraid of this kind of person. Forcing a hunt would only backfire in the end. He Sha was infuriated. He was about to retreat. However, Han Fei chased after him. The giant ran in the void and chased after him at the speed of light. Han Fei shouted, "You can get out of here, but leave the boat here." He Sha. Chapter 2285. When He Sha heard this, he wasn't happy. He turned around and let out a roar. A black shark companion's spirit fused with him. He Sha's voice was cold. "Boy, do you really think I can't beat you?" Han Fei didn't listen to him at all. He launched the sacrificing punch, the god-slaying gloves burst out scarlet fist marks, and the weird phantoms that couldn't be seen at all. Ghost Fire Blade Tail. He Sha burst out, and a large amount of purple-gray poison spewed out of his body. He grew a tail that was like a sickle, which was poisonous and covered in a large amount of immortal spiritual energy. He tried to break Han Fei's weird fist technique without fighting at close range. Clang. Bam. The instant explosion formed a sonic boom and a tide, soaring into the sky. Han Fei's Dharma world dimmed under this blow and almost disappeared. A secret technique? Although he was surprised by He Sha's attack, he didn't really care. It wasn't a big deal that his heaven and earth form disappeared. Indeed, Han Fei's fist had been shattered, and his Dharma idol had also disappeared. This was enough to prove how powerful He Sha was. To be able to roam this sea region for so long, he was definitely not a mediocre person. However, what left He Sha speechless was that this man had actually used his flesh and blood to grab his poisonous tail. For a moment, He Sha felt that he was crazy. Aren't you afraid of the poison of a heaven-opening state cultivator? Also, he wondered if this man really hadn't turned into a star. How could his physique be so strong? On the other side, because their battle was too fast, Feng Qingqing, who was only at the peak of the sea expansion realm, couldn't see through it. So she kept asking, "How is it? How is it?" Feng Xingliu's eyes widened. He resisted He Sha's terrifying blade light with his body. "I suspect that he's an extreme body refinement cultivator." The members of the team next to Feng Xingliu shivered. Who the hell are these people? Extreme body refinement cultivators were supermasters that only existed in the legends. They would be hunted as soon as they appeared. However, when they saw the terrifying Dharma, they felt that nothing was impossible for these sky prides, right? Feng Qingqing rolled her eyes and said, "That's impossible. His transcendence world requires the support of his divine soul. It's impossible for him to be an extreme Dao cultivator. Maybe he's just a dual cultivator. Nothing more." Everyone, is that even possible? Han Fei grabbed this person's giant tail, roared, and slammed it into the bottom of the sea. On his chest, the god thought bead emitted a halo and the weird poison was purified before it could contaminate Han Fei's body. Bang, 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 bang. Unfortunately, after Han Fei smashed it dozens of times, the tail turned into a spiral cone, and Han Fei could no longer hold it, and the flesh on his hands cracked. But Han Fei struck back and stood on the black shark one step ahead of them. Although there were nearly 10 powerhouses at the late stage of the heaven-opening realm on the black shark, the power Han Fei displayed was not something they could contend with at all. Han Fei waved his hand in the air, and several spear pillars descended one after another, directly sealing the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. At this moment, he was on the chopping block. He Sha, who was a step slower, looked at Han Fei angrily from 10,000 kilometers away. "Boy, you're courting death. Believe it or not, I'd rather give up this Khanate Taoist aptitude and summon an emperor from the Singing Sea area." The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly, and he imitated the arrogant look of the Emperor Sparrow and said, "Shout. If you dare to shout, I dare to kill you. How dare a nameless venerable sovereign challenge me? You make it sound like you're the only one who knows how to shout. My senior martial brother can kill a venerable sovereign with one finger. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Han Fei spoke confidently and matter-of-factly. However, he sneered. "If I hadn't promised to travel alone, that old man wouldn't have been able to run away. He would be kneeling in front of me now." Han Fei wasn't joking. In fact, he was confident that he could defeat He Sha without relying on his senior brother. But he didn't want to expose the void-stealing technique now. Besides, there were emperors in this Singing Sea area. He Sha? Feng Xingliu was speechless. He was also a little uncertain. This man's momentum, attitude, and arrogance seemed to be from a major force. He couldn't help but look at Feng Qingqing. Is he an awakened heavenly talent from a divine heritage? Feng Qingqing said, the 5 divine lands all have their own possibilities. I'm more inclined to the West Sea divine land. I'm told that the Wild Sand Sea there are mostly body-tempering experts with unparalleled combat abilities and crazy personalities. Feng Xingliu said timidly, oh no. How can I make friends with the West Sea divine land? Feng Qingqing was surprised and said blankly, who knows? What if he has made friends with us? At this moment, Han Fei stood proudly on the bow of the black shark and said proudly, what? You can't afford to lose? You want to rob them of their divine weapons, divine techniques, and connate Taoist aptitude. I can't do nothing. Just leave 1 divine weapon and 500,000 kilometers of resources to me. As for the rest, I don't think you can afford it since you're so poor. With that said, Han Fei took out the Green Thunder wine gourd, which had been broken but repaired, from his backhand. Gudu gudu gudu, Han Fei raised his head and drank a few mouthfuls. Then he wiped his mouth and said, it's not that I despise you, but even my gourd is a divine weapon. What do you have? Don't tell me you only have a dream to prove your Tao. Heisha's eyelids twitched. He didn't dare to mess with this man. He could see that this man's heart was as still as water and his aura was calm. The invisible power that he absorbed from nature was obviously a heavenly heritage. In terms of bloodline, Heisha also felt that he was being suppressed. Although he felt that this man was boasting that he could kill an emperor. However, if this man was a heavenly talent from a divine heritage family or a descendant of a hidden imperial family, he wouldn't be someone that he could mess with. But this bastard was asking for too much. 500,000 kilometers worth of resources. Did he want to take them from me to turn them into planets? Heisha narrowed his eyes and said, do you really think I don't dare to call? Han Fei shrugged. Go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Hurry up and call me. I'll kill him together. Han Fei had made up his mind. Anyway, it was Feng Yu who asked him for help. When the time came, he would say that he couldn't defeat him and call his eldest senior brother. Then he would take the void mark from Feng Yu. And he could kill an emperor with eldest senior brother's help. Even if he couldn't, he could suppress him. Then he would spread his name on the black shark and build a super backer for himself. In this way, no matter what happened in the Divine Capital Dynasty, people would have to think twice when they heard Han Fei's name. So Han Fei didn't care that Heisha asked for help from an emperor at all. He even hoped that Heisha would really call an emperor over. Eldest senior brother's power is really fascinating. The chains of the way of the heavens can be chased away. Even Feng Xingliu and Feng Qingqing couldn't help but look at each other in shock. It seemed that Han Fei wasn't bluffing at all, because it was Han Fei who boarded the black shark by force. Otherwise, Heisha would have run away. Heisha's face darkened. What if I don't give it to you? Han Fei smiled contemptuously. It doesn't matter. I can't kill you now, and you're not worthy of me calling you senior brother. But all the ants on your ship have to die. I'm taking this ship. Who doesn't make money from fighting these days? Otherwise, if my senior brothers and senior sisters find out, how can I survive? Han Fei paused. Why don't you call yourself an emperor? What's the name of the emperor you know? Hurry up and don't dawdle. The corner of Heisha's mouth twitched. Although he didn't believe that Han Fei had such a powerful background, he didn't dare to do so. Because once he called an emperor over, there would be no turning back. There were only 2 outcomes for him. One was that the young man on the opposite side had somehow summoned a means to suppress an emperor, and then he would definitely die. The other was that the young man on the opposite side had a means to resist an emperor and then he would run away with the couple. Heisha didn't think that Han Fei really had no trump cards, because Han Fei was too confident. His personality was better than that of the couple. And the identity of the man and woman was not simple, because when Han Fei first appeared, he said that the 2 of them had sneaked out. They sneaked out, so they didn't take any guards with them. Otherwise, who would let a little girl with a Kane Taoism figure run out? Besides, from the very beginning, Han Fei had been looking for them. The force behind the two of them must have used their connections to look for them. And if that kind of force could use their connections, it must be a top force, so it was not difficult to explain Han Fei's arrogance and arrogance. He Sha's heart tightened. No matter whether he called an emperor or not, he would be the one in trouble. If an emperor came and couldn't kill them, not only would he make enemies for an emperor, but he would also hide the fact that an emperor had kidnapped them. The consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, He Sha compromised in the end and said solemnly, "I only have one divine artifact, and it's not enough to give you all the resources. Give?" Han Fei couldn't help but say in disdain, "You are not a noob anymore. You don't even have resources within a 500,000 kilometers?" He Sha's face was dark. "Do you know how many resources that is?" Han Fei couldn't help but look at Feng Xingliu and Feng Qingqing suspiciously. "Well, do I really want too much?" Feng Xingliu's lips twitched. "Do you think this is your home? The people out there are very poor." When Feng Xingliu said that casually, He Sha was infuriated. Damn it, are the heavenly talents of the big forces all so arrogant? Han Fei was shocked. Well done. She cooperated with him flawlessly. Han Fei couldn't help but be confused. Really? Han Fei looked at He Sha grumpily and said, "Then give it to me. Hurry up. Show me the divine artifact first. What type is it?" A moment later, when Han Fei took a green lotus seed, information popped up in his eyes. Named Soul Calming Lotus Seed. Introduction: a lotus seed born from the soul calming lotus, a natural treasure after 80,000 years. This lotus seed has the innate effect of protecting the soul. With the lotus seed, it can protect the soul as a heaven-opening level soul technique. Quality: low-quality divine artifact, soul attachment, none effect, soul protection, recastable, unrefined. Note, this is an ordinary soul protection divine artifact. If you can collect 18 of them, it will be a high-quality divine artifact. Han Fei pretended to be cool. He glanced at the lotus seed and mumbled, "A low-quality soul protection divine artifact? How can you give it to me?" Then Han Fei tossed it to Feng Qingqing and said, "How can you give it to me? I'm too embarrassed to take it. I've never used a low-quality divine artifact in my life." Feng Qingqing? Feng Xingliu? He Sha. He Sha's heart was bleeding. Feng Xingliu thought to himself, "Aren't you pulling up the seedlings to help them grow? Give it to me." Feng Qingqing, on the other hand, grabbed the soul-calming lotus seed. Overjoyed, she bowed to Han Fei calmly. "Thank you, brother-in-law." Pooh. Chapter 2286. Han Fei spat out a mouthful of wine. "What the fuck, brother-in-law? Who is your brother-in-law?" Han Fei thought to himself, "I'm not sure whether I have you or not. Don't pretend to be relatives." The soul protection divine artifact was actually a very good thing. Han Fei wanted to keep it for himself, but considering that Feng Yu now owed him a favor, he might as well let her owe him. He had a hunch that this trip to the divine capital dynasty wouldn't be simple. He still had to do things for Mo Chi. How could he easily get involved in the affairs of the Temple of Time? Besides, he had offended the Heavenly Clan this time. If he guessed correctly, the Heavenly Clan should have been hunted down a lot these years. A lot of heaven-opening realm powerhouses must have died, but they would definitely know who was targeting them. Therefore, his name would definitely be known by the Heavenly Clan. Right now, everything was still calm and peaceful, and nothing could be seen. However, he hadn't even arrived at the Divine Capital Dynasty yet. However, at this moment, Han Fei casually threw away the divine artifact with a look of disgust, which not only poked Black Shark's sore spot, but also made him more certain that this person's background was really powerful. How could a divine artifact be given away so easily? Han Fei didn't even blink. He didn't believe that he was not from a rich family. His original plan was perfect, and he might be able to force him to succeed. At the very least, he could grab a divine artifact or a divine technique, right? But now, because of Han Fei's appearance, he had to give away divine artifacts and resources. At this moment, on the Black Shark, those heaven-opening realm powerhouses almost took out all their resources. They didn't dare not take them out. Even their boss had started. In the end, Han Fei got a total of about 360,000 kilometers of resources. He felt that this was the normal resource reserve of a fleet, much more than Qiu Shouzong's resources. This also showed that the resources in the wilderness were richer than in the chaotic wasteland. 360,000 kilometers of resources was not a small number. According to Han Fei's estimation, if he could eat all these resources and use them to open up his origin sea, he could at least expand his origin sea to 53 or even 540,000 kilometers. This made Han Fei think for the first time that it seemed that it was not very difficult to open up the origin sea. He used to think that tens of thousands of kilometers of resources would be a lot. How many mineral veins, spirit springs, spirit stones, and all sorts of other stuff would they have to dig up? Now that he looked at it, it seemed to be the case. As long as he was strong enough, he felt that he would be able to get a huge sum of money just by robbing. However, Han Fei had never thought that an ordinary heaven-opening state cultivator could casually rob resources from a late-stage star transformation cultivator. Wasn't that courting death? Most people were like Feng Xingliu's team, running around, digging up resources, exploring arcane pocket realms, and then trading for resources at the various camps. That way, they would slowly expand their essence seas and try to reach the Star Ascension realm as soon as possible. Therefore, Han Fei actually didn't understand the pain of these ordinary heaven-opening realm experts. He naturally felt that it was too troublesome and tiring to dig up resources by himself. He could only rely on robbing. As for how others accumulated so many resources, it was none of his business. After receiving the resources, Han Fei flashed and appeared next to Feng Xinglu and the others. With a thought, he put away the blood fiend and then shouted at He Sha, "Next time I turn into a star, I'll fight with you. Prepare some resources first." Psycho. Swish. The black shark fled in disgrace. As for why Han Fei didn't attack the other people on the black shark, He Sha felt that it was reasonable. From the beginning to the end, Han Fei didn't even glance at the crew members on the black shark. His arrogant posture showed that he didn't care about the so-called ants in his eyes at all. Such a person would probably be annoyed if he were to deal with some small fries in person. In fact, it seemed that Han Fei didn't need to deal with ordinary small fries in person. That blood fiend was not something that ordinary people could resist. After the black shark left, the place where Han Fei and the others were standing temporarily became an extremely dangerous place. There were fist marks and knife intent everywhere. Ordinary sea-opening realm cultivators probably didn't dare to approach at all. When Han Fei appeared next to Feng Xinglu and the others, Captain Zhou and the others didn't dare to make a sound or even look up at Han Fei easily. Han Fei glanced at them casually and then said, "Don't go to the Wind Valley. Those people must have come from there. You can wander around and then find another camp. I don't think anyone will give you trouble." Captain Zhou quickly cupped his hands. Yes. Then he winked at the others in the team. He couldn't take it anymore after such a narrow escape. He was actually quite angry at Feng Xinglu and thought to himself, "You're a master, so why did you have to join our team?" However, he didn't dare to show the slightest disrespect on the surface. Feng Xinglu snorted. "Wait a minute." Feng Xinglu's face darkened, and he looked at Captain Zhou and the others. "I didn't expect that you would be involved in this dangerous place. Old Zhou was almost killed because of me. It's my fault." Captain Zhou quickly said, "That's not right, Brother Lushing." "Well, fellow cultivator Feng, the black shark has always been powerful in the Singing Sea. Countless people have been killed by them." Feng Xinglu shook his head. "In any case, I can't let you risk your lives with me for nothing, or I won't be able to rest easy." Then, Feng Xinglu took out almost 10 sea-quelling bizarre treasures casually. Yes, Han Fei was right. He took out almost 10 sea-quelling bizarre treasures casually. Although they were only mid-quality, they were still sea-quelling bizarre treasures. Then he took out a star shell and said, "There are resources in 100,000 square kilometers here. Consider it a small compensation for you, old Zhou. I don't have many resources with me. This is just a token of appreciation." Han Fei? Captain Zhou? Han Fei felt that he was hallucinating. Resources in 100,000 square kilometers? A token of appreciation? Is that what you mean? Han Fei couldn't help but recall that he didn't have resources in 100,000 square kilometers back in the chaotic wasteland. He couldn't trade for so many resources even if he fought in the scavenger arena for 10 years. It wasn't that he didn't have so many resources, but that he didn't even have half of them. Han Fei didn't feel good at all. He thought that he was already very pretentious, but this guy was even more pretentious. Was this the daily life of Feng Yu's family? Captain Zhou would be lying if he said that he was not tempted. See quelling bizarre treasures and resources in 100,000 square kilometers. How many treasure troves could they explore? How could resources be so easy to get? He and Feng Xinglu just met by chance. In fact, even if he died this time, it wouldn't affect those big shots at all. He knew that from today onwards, the two of them would no longer have any interactions. So, although Captain Zhou said that he couldn't accept it, he had already accepted it. Feng Xinglu waved his hand. Old Zhou, don't be so polite. These are just some resources. Not worth mentioning at all. Han Fei really wanted to roll his eyes. Since when did you see them being polite to you? They were all in the wilderness. Unless they were idiots, they would gladly accept resources that came to them for free. Feng Qingqing, on the other hand, wanted to burst out at Feng Xinglu but was too shy to do so because someone else was around. Han Fei immediately realized that this girl should be more reliable than Feng Xinglu. Old Zhou and the others couldn't wait to fly away. They didn't say a word along the way, as if they wanted to fly billions of kilometers at once. After Old Zhou and the rest ran away, Feng Qingqing jumped up and knocked on Feng Xinglu's head. Are you stupid? Do you know how many resources you've given away? It's 10 times more than the treasure troves they explored this time. 10 times, do you understand? Feng Xinglu frowned. So what? Old Zhou and the others almost died for you and me. You heartless girl. Feng Qingqing almost bit him. That's two different things. Isn't it better for you to give them resources even if you teach them a great technique? Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Do you understand? You've squandered almost all the money we have this time. Feng Qingqing, who was fuming with rage, suddenly realized that Han Fei was still there. She immediately shut her mouth and her appearance changed 180 degrees. She turned her head and became an obedient ordinary girl. Feng Qingqing said, "Sorry about that, brother." Feng Qingqing wanted to call Han Fei, but she didn't know what to call him. Since he was her sister's brother-in-law, she decided to call him brother. She didn't know how to call him senior. Also, calling him senior would distance them from each other, which was not good. Han Fei slightly shrugged. I agree with you. In fact, it's not good to give them so many resources. There are so many of them, and it's hard to distribute the resources within 100,000 kilometers. They might even have their own selfish desires and fight among themselves. This is the wilderness, and there are no deep friendships in the wilderness. Instead, there are more benefits. Feng Xinglu blushed. I think they're not bad. They're not heartless people. Han Fei thought of something and said with a smile, Do you want to take a look? Feng Xinglu nodded. Sure. I've been through life and death with old Zhou. How can I be wrong? Half a day passed. In an extremely distant sea region, old Zhou's eyes were sharp as he sized up his surroundings. At this moment, there were only 2 heaven opening state experts in his team. Old Zhou said, These resources are actually not bad. Of the 8 sea quelling bizarre treasures, I'll get 6, and each of you will get 1. As for the resources, we'll split 70% among the 3 of us, and the rest will be given to the others. Any objections? The other 2 were not as strong as old Zhou. If they objected in the boundless wilderness, the consequences would be unpredictable. So, even though old Zhou proposed a very unreasonable distribution, they didn't object. After all, they could still get some benefits. The sea-quelling bizarre treasures were also priceless. Feng Xinglu, who was peeking at Han Fei from a distance, was dumbfounded. He trembled in fury and his face immediately became awful. No, I have to get these resources back. This is too much. Although Feng Qingqing couldn't see it, she knew from Feng Xinglu's expression that what would happen next would be very different from what Feng Xinglu expected. Han Fei grabbed him. You still want what you've given away? If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know how dangerous the wilderness is. Why do you think old Zhou gave one to each of them? Feng Xinglu's face was awful, and he shouted, Of course, he still cares about our friendship. After all, we're on the same team. Han Fei sneered. Han Fei sneered. Let me tell you, the reason why he gave one to each of them was that the two of them couldn't join hands. If there were only one heaven-opening state expert here, he might have already killed them. Feng Xinglu's eyes widened. No way. Han Fei chuckled. No way? Believe it or not, he'll let the two of them leave after he distributes the resources. Then he'll take the 30% of the resources that belong to the other heaven-opening realm experts, including the resources for your exploration of the secret realm this time. Feng Xinglu took a deep breath, his eyelids twitching. Old Zhou is quite nice to these heaven-opening realm experts. With his character. Before Feng Xinglu finished, the other two heaven-opening state experts who took the resources had already flown away and left the team. Seeing this, Feng Xinglu's eyes were spewing fire, and his body was covered in flames. Seeing this, Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. He had never experienced the cruelty of society. Look at him. Feng Xinglu immediately roared, Don't stop me. I'm going to teach him a lesson. I treated him sincerely and didn't belittle him because of his identity, but Han Fei rolled his eyes. He almost died for you. How can you be so shameless as to ask for resources? Feng Qingqing nodded quickly. I can't be shameless. Feng Xinglu. Chapter 2287. Feng Xingliu felt like he had lost a lot of face this time, and didn't say anything on the way back. Feng Qingqing, on the other hand, was not what her name sounded like at all. She was not pretty and talkative. Brother Han Fei, how did you meet my sister? We went through a trial together. Han Fei thought, although she tested me, it's still a trial. Feng Qingqing asked, My sister gave you a divine weapon just because it's so simple? The Phoenix Feather Saber was her first divine weapon. Many people asked for it, but she didn't give it to them. I want it too. So does Feng Xingliu. Feng Xingliu said grumpily, Nonsense. I didn't ask for it. I didn't. Feng Qingqing snorted. You didn't get it, so you got a Star Stream sword, but you didn't become famous. Feng Xingliu exploded like an angry cat. Feng Qingqing, I'm warning you. Is there anything in this world that I can't get? I just don't want that saber. Han Fei sighed inwardly. She was indeed inexperienced. He really didn't know how the disciples of these great powers were able to split open the sky. In any case, it was just splitting open the sky. However, when he thought of Feng Xinglu's generosity, Han Fei didn't find it strange anymore. Why did he have to compete with a tycoon? Ignoring Feng Xingliu, Feng Qingqing tilted her head and asked Han Fei, Brother Han Fei, you haven't told me why my sister gave the wind and rain saber to you. Feng Xingliu's ears slightly pricked up. He wondered why Feng Yu was so kind. Han Fei said with a smile, It's a long story. Maybe she was lonely, and it was rare for her to meet someone as lonely as me, so she took me as her confidant. Feng Qingqing and Feng Xingliu were both stunned. What do you mean by saying that I'm lonely? But Feng Qingqing thought she was smart. I see. My sister thinks that the world is full of mediocre people. It's rare for her to meet a top heavenly talent like you, Brother Han Fei. If it were me, I would take you as my confidant too. Cough, cough, cough. Feng Xingliu coughed to remind Feng Qingqing to be careful. What do you mean by taking me as your confidant? Don't be fooled by this brat. Feng Qingqing ignored him and continued, Brother Han Fei. Han Fei had a headache. Why did he have so many questions? Han Fei said, We have to leave the Singing Sea as soon as possible. There are venerable sovereigns guarding this sea. If your identities are discovered by other venerable sovereigns, you will be in trouble. Feng Xinglu, aren't you going to kill the emperors? If venerable sovereign comes, so be it. Han Fei chuckled. What do you mean by that? I was saving you just now. If you come, I'll use the void mark. If eldest senior brother attacks you, I'll take the blame. Now that you have been saved by me, if the venerable sovereign comes again and uses the void mark, it will be my fault. Am I stupid? Han Fei immediately said, I'm bragging. This. Feng Qingqing and Feng Xingliu both stared at Han Fei. Was this appropriate? We all thought that you could really kill venerable sovereign, but in the end, you were just bragging. Feng Xingliu's expression changed slightly. If Dizun really comes, won't he take all three of us down together? So let's go. Feng Xingliu, Feng Qingqing. It was the first time that they had seen someone who could brag so boldly. Kill the emperors? The great image that Han Fei had created just now collapsed in an instant. So, Feng Qingqing entered the Origin Sea, and Han Fei and Feng Xingliu quickly left the Singing Sea. On the other side, Feng Yi was hurrying toward the Divine Prefecture of the East Sea. Yes, she hadn't reached the Divine Prefecture of the East Sea yet. In consideration of the safety of the two troublemakers in her family, and the fact that little junior brother had split open the sky not too long ago, she was very anxious. However, she had only been running for less than 4 months when she suddenly heard eldest senior brother's voice in her head. Eldest senior brother said, 11, little junior brother has found your brother and sister. They are out of danger. So fast? Feng Yu was speechless. These two must have encountered great danger if they informed her through their family emblem. Little junior brother took care of it so easily? It seemed that she had underestimated this little junior brother. In less than 400 years, the speed of his growth seemed to be a little beyond his expectations. Half a year later, it was actually very close to the godly capital dynasty, probably only 0.2 light years away. For the godly capital dynasty, this was equivalent to a suburb that was not very far. In the past 6 months, Han Fei had learned where Feng Yu's family came from these two silly girls. Their bloodline came from the South Ocean Divine Land, and there was a place for their family in the Middle Ocean Divine Land. This clan was the descendants of the divine bloodline. Some of their descendants had awakened the bloodline of the divine bloodline when they were born, so they were extremely powerful when they grew up. And Han Fei roughly knew where Feng Yu went 300 years ago. The place where Feng Yu went was the Middle Ocean Divine Land. It could be said that all the super forces in the East, West, South, and North Divine Land would continue to exist in the Middle Ocean Divine Land. And the Middle Ocean Divine Land often introduced some real peerless heavenly talents from the 4 divine lands. The outstanding ones in the Middle Ocean Divine Land could not only show the prestige of their families, but also gain more abundant resources, more powerful techniques, and more magical techniques. Anyway, the Middle Ocean Divine Land reigned supreme above the 4 divine lands. The reason why Feng Xingliu and Feng Qingqing sneaked to the East Ocean Divine Land was that Feng Yu performed very well in the Middle Ocean Divine Land's trial. It was said that she crushed all the heavenly talents and was extremely dazzling. As a result, the South Ocean Divine Land's Feng Yu family's doorstep was almost broken, and the people who came to the East Ocean Divine Land were all top divine bloodline families. Because of this, Feng Yu didn't come to the East Ocean Divine Land early. And many people in the family focused their attention on Feng Yu, so they didn't notice Feng Xingliu and Feng Qingqing who sneaked out. By the time the family found out, they found that these two had already stolen a lot of treasures from the family and ran off to God knows how far away. Most people didn't know where they went. But because Feng Yu knew Feng Xingliu's character, she guessed where they were. However, if there were no accidents, the Feng family would have strong masters who would come one step earlier than Feng Yu. After all, 2 little treasures ran away from the family, and many people were panicking. Bang! Feng Qingqing easily suppressed the 3 peak stage sea expansion overlords with a strange magnetic flame. Feng Qingqing said, "Hand over the qualification token for the 10,000-year competition and I'll spare your lives." Someone in the crowd had an ugly expression on his face, but he still took out a light red bead with the word, Sea Expansion, engraved on it. This was the qualification token. Only with this could one be qualified to participate in the 10,000-year competition. Without this, you can't even sign up. Han Fei didn't know this at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't care about the quota. He would just come and fight for it. Han Fei and the others had fought for it dozens of times. the Divine Capital Dynasty didn't impose any restrictions on the competition for the qualification token. However, this qualification token had special restrictions. That was, Venerables could only fight for Venerables, Sea Expansion Overlords could only fight for Sea Expansion Overlords, and Heaven Expansion Overlords could only fight for Heaven Expansion Overlords. Besides, the Divine Capital also stipulated that fights between cultivators could only be carried out in the void and couldn't be carried out in the outside world. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. As for how to distinguish whether a Sea Expansion Overlord was fighting for a Venerable or a Heaven Expansion Overlord was fighting for a Sea Expansion Overlord, it depended on the qualification token itself. This was because every qualification token was said to be condensed from a bit of the Eastern Wu Great Emperor's soul. No one could take it away and no one could break it. If you dared to kill a Sea Expansion Overlord or a Sea Expansion Overlord, the qualification token would detect it immediately and automatically imprint it on you. At that time, no matter how strong you were, could you be stronger than the Eastern Wu Great Emperor? Once you were imprinted on the qualification token, you would be directly obliterated. However, this rule only took effect within 0.3 light-years of the divine continent of the East Sea. But there was one thing, and that was, in places like the Scavenger City, they only got the qualification token that had not been activated. With the token in hand, as long as you enter within 0.3 light-years, or rather, enter the Dongwu Great Emperor's sensing range, the qualification token will be activated immediately. Activating the qualification token was of great significance. This meant that when the qualification token was activated, it could only be used to fight in the same realm. This greatly guaranteed the safety of the participants who came to participate in the 10,000-year competition. Of course, the only bad thing was that the qualification token could not be kept in the body. It would be temporarily imprinted on the owner's wrist, so it was impossible to hide how many qualification tokens a person had. Therefore, the competition for the qualification token was very crazy. The only good thing was that within 15 days after the qualification token was snatched, the person would still be protected by the imprint, but if it exceeded 15 days, they could only pray for their own luck. Most people entered the Divine Capital Dynasty with the qualification token as soon as they entered the Divine Capital Dynasty. But there were also some people who wandered in the outer wilderness, specifically targeting those in the same realm, and some even formed teams to attack. For now, Han Fei and the others could be considered a team. It was just that Han Fei and Feng Xingliu did not attack those below the Heaven Expansion realm. It was equivalent to fighting on their own. Therefore, when Feng Qingqing fought, no one would be afraid of the existence of Han Fei and Feng Xingliu. At this moment, Feng Qingqing waved her wrist. I already have 50 qualification tokens. Do you want to continue? Han Fei glanced at her sideways. What are you talking about? Of course, we have to continue. I have already arranged a plan. When the time comes, we will sell qualification tokens outside the 10,000-year competition. Do you know how many people will come to buy them? Countless of them. That's countless resources. Feng Xingliu frowned. I don't think this is good. Resources? Bah. Han Fei couldn't help but tilt his head and look at Feng Xingliu. Resources are enough for the great emperor to explore the Sea of Stars. So no matter how rich your family is, if you don't make progress, you will run out of resources one day. Then you have to fight. If you can't live off your family, what do you call it? That's called living off your parents. Feng Qingqing immediately raised her hand. Brother Han Fei is right. We can't live off our parents. Chapter 2288. Han Fei was very impressed by the fact that the qualification tokens could be competed for. This was the real way to select talents. This was a shortcut to the rise of a real master. Many itinerant cultivators were usually poor and pitiful. However, in the midst of a battle, it was very likely that bicycles would become motorcycles, motorcycles would become trots, and trots would become supercars. Besides, this was obviously a bug. Did no one pay attention to how the qualification tokens were dealt with later? This was worth pondering. Perhaps it was deliberately done by the Dongwu Great Emperor. To be honest, there were definitely many people who had the same idea as Han Fei. At this moment, Feng Qingqing had finished looting, and Han Fei was observing the sea of stars. We should not be far from a camp. There are many stars around, which is the best place for hunting. Are you two ready? Feng Xingliu seemed to be persuaded by Han Fei's words, so he nodded. Then let's fight. But I want to go to the divine capital dynasty. I've never been there. It's said to be beautiful. Han Fei immediately raised his voice. Are you a woman? Why do you have to be so beautiful? Do you know what men want? Seeing that he was rebuked again, Feng Xingliu raised his voice again. What men want? Han Fei rubbed his fingers. Resources, of course. With resources, you can do whatever you want. Think about it. Since you were a child, what you ate, used, and cultivated were all resources, right? Feng Xingliu's face sank. I don't eat, but it seems so. Han Fei said, Don't argue with me. What do you mean it seems so? Without a family, you are nothing. Feng Xingliu was furious. Say that again? Han Fei said, So what? If you have the ability, go and get me tens of thousands of qualification tokens. If you don't like the resources, give them all to me. Feng Xingliu said, No, I got them. They have to be mine. Looking at Feng Xingliu, who was overwhelmed by Han Fei's words, Feng Qingqing shook her head slightly. Her brother was really stupid. Suddenly Han Fei said, Come on, Northwest. 6 or 7 shining stars suddenly appeared there. Someone must be fighting. Let's go. In the blink of an eye, Feng Qingqing was already beside Feng Xingliu, and in the next moment, she disappeared. Han Fei and Feng Xingliu, on the other hand, dashed at 5 times the speed of light at the same time. The reason why it was 5 times the speed of light was because 5 times the speed of light was the speed of the Phoenix star stream. He was shocked when he learned that the Phoenix star art could travel at 5 times the speed of light. This was what a wealthy family was like. They could unleash a power that was 5 times the speed of light right after they transformed into a star. Many people were unable to comprehend superluminal speed after they had attained the celestial transformation. Of course, he was an exception. Because of all kinds of coincidences, Han Fei's current maximum speed was no more than 6 times the speed of light. Unless he exposed the great Tao of time and controlled the power of time around him to accelerate. Han Fei had thought that the battle might last for a while, but to his surprise, the battle was over in less than 100 seconds. So fast. They're able to annihilate their opponents so quickly even though they're in the same realm. It looks like this is a team that specializes in this. Feng Xingliu said, The stars are dimming. What do we do now? Han Fei took out the nautical globe. What do we do? This is my home field. Of course, we'll chase them. Feng Xingliu looked at the nautical globe in Han Fei's hand curiously and asked in surprise, What divine weapon is this? Han Fei said, This is a human. This is a sacred weapon. A sacred weapon? Feng Xingliu was puzzled. Why haven't I heard of a sacred weapon? If it's not a divine weapon, shouldn't it be a natural spiritual treasure? Han Fei's heart did a flip. This is man-made, so it belongs to the category of tools? Feng Xingliu argued, Not necessarily. Our family's fire path resurrection wheel is also a tool. But we also call it a chaotic spiritual treasure, just one level higher than a natural spiritual treasure. But a wheel? Han Fei was dumbfounded. What kind of godly item is this? Feng Xingliu was taken aback. You don't know our Feng family's fire path resurrection wheel? Han Fei was stunned. Do I have to know? Well, Feng Xingliu was speechless. It seemed that outsiders didn't know much. So he said proudly, The fire path resurrection wheel means that once a person dies, his body is gone, and his soul can't be saved. Through this wheel, he can forcibly step into the river of time, the river of life, and the legendary reincarnation ancient path, pull his soul back, and transform it into a fire spirit. Apart from the fact that he doesn't have a body, he's also an extremely powerful fire spirit. Han Fei was shocked. He didn't understand at all. Was there a river of life too? And what was the reincarnation ancient path? Boy, the knowledge of the descendants of the big clans is indeed different. But he couldn't show that he was an uneducated retard. So, Han Fei snorted. Was your fire path resurrection will not made by a human? Feng Xinglu nodded. Yes. It said that it was made by the gods of our clan before they died. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. So, it should be called a chaotic spiritual treasure. Really, a chaotic spiritual treasure should be called a chaotic spiritual treasure. Just like the chaotic green lotus, it was born naturally. Both of them are chaotic spiritual treasures. Isn't it easy to confuse them? Feng Xingliu seemed to think about it seriously. That does make sense. Well, chaotic spiritual treasures are hard to find. The chaotic green lotus is indeed delicious. Unfortunately, I ate a chaotic green lotus seed when I was little, and I don't even know what it tastes like anymore. Han Fei almost wanted to kick Feng Xinglu to death. What about Versailles? So what if he ate a chaotic spiritual treasure? I don't even want to tell you that my wife ate an entire one. Han Fei and Feng Xinglu chatted for a long time on the way. The guy kept talking about the trifles of daily cultivation, how bad the divine pills were, how uncomfortable the family's medicinal baths were, and how his body cramped when he practiced divine arts. Han Fei was almost at the end of his patience. Feng Xinglu had been showing off all the time, and he didn't know anything about it. He could only snort occasionally and comment casually. Once again, he hated the rich of the big clans. But Feng Xinglu didn't know it. Because Han Fei saved him and Feng Qingqing, he often forgot about it even though he wanted to compete with Han Fei, and he accidentally started chatting with him. Feng Xinglu said, "In fact, if Feng Yu hadn't been born a few days earlier than me, she would have called me brother." "Hey, why are you pulling me, hum?" All of a sudden, Feng Xinglu, who was angry about being born a few days later, was dragged by Han Fei. The two of them crossed thousands of kilometers and suddenly appeared before a man in a golden robe. Seeing that the man was found, Feng Xinglu became serious and said, "I'll deal with him." Han Fei ignored Feng Xinglu, who was like an idiot. "Do you know how many people there are?" On the other side, the person didn't expect that he would actually be chased. He was startled at first, but then he seemed to observe the stars and discovered that the stars of these two people weren't as bright as his. In fact, they were much weaker than his. Immediately, the man sneered. "Guys, are you trying to rob me? Do you know what my clones are?" Hearing this, Feng Xinglu stomped on the ground, and fiery clouds rose. "You ant, do you know who I am?" Feng Xinglu learned the word ant from Han Fei. When Han Fei stepped on the black shark, he said it. However, at that time, Han Fei said it to show that he was a disciple of a superforce, because it was what the supermasters always said. However, the reason why Feng Xinglu said it was purely because he was provoked by the young man's question, "Do you know who I am?" Feng Xinglu had been competing with others all his life. He couldn't stand it, so he used the word ant. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Bringing this guy with him was like a divine weapon of ridicule. For two people who saw each other as ants, the final outcome would definitely be them fighting. Sure enough, as Han Fei expected, the young man opposite him did not intend to escape. Instead, with a thought, four heaven-opening realm powerhouses appeared in a row. Including him, there were a total of 5 heaven-opening realm powerhouses who had already turned into stars. The man who was released was also a little surprised. "Brother E, you found a new target so quickly?" The young man surnamed E sneered. "I didn't find them, but they came to me. They must have found my trace by accident and found me alone, so they came to me." Someone looked at the stars and immediately sneered, "What? The brightness of these stars is much lower than mine." "Hey, you two, who gave you the illusion that you can rob others?" Feng Xinglu's face turned cold and he pointed at the man. "Shut up, ant. Hand over your qualification token, or I'll be merciless." The moment he was pointed at, his face turned cold. "You bastard, how can I vent my anger if I don't dig out your soul and crush it inch by inch?" Han Fei was already in a good mood. What was he waiting for? He glanced at Feng Xinglu. "Let's see who can beat me more." Feng Xinglu nodded. "Sure." Fire God descends. Chapter 2289. Feng Xingliu was very anxious. He knew that Han Fei was extremely strong. No matter what, he couldn't lose to him. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. He had to kill one of them first to save the other two. So when he heard that Han Fei was going to take action, he attacked earlier than Han Fei. Both sides were full of confidence in this battle. The man surnamed Yi thought that according to the strength of these two, there couldn't be anyone stronger than him in their source C, so even if they could call a few more people, he wouldn't lose. Feng Xingliu thought that even if Han Fei wasn't here, 4 or 5 ordinary star transformation cultivators were no match for him. So, as soon as the two entered the void, they fought head-on. However, both sides had different mindsets. The man surnamed Yi thought that these two people were mediocre and didn't need his help, so he didn't move at all. The others also had the intention of underestimating the enemy, so only 2 people from their side attacked. And Feng Xingliu was eager to show off, so he attacked with his ultimate move. Han Fei, on the other hand, didn't use any gloves at all. He just made a simple fist mark, which looked much worse than Feng Xingliu. However, at the moment of the first exchange, the man facing Feng Xingliu suddenly changed his face and his soul trembled in shock when he touched Feng Xingliu's spear. Puff, the moment the man's face changed, the flaming knife light swept across 3,000 kilometers and completely crushed him. His body was burned into nothingness, and his soul was annihilated by the scorching power. At the same time, Han Fei's fist mark directly penetrated the depths of this man's soul. Bam! This person's body and soul exploded at the same time, just like what had happened to the Emperor Sparrow. Han Fei was now in the soul enlightenment state and his yang soul had been formed, so he could directly attack people's souls. So, under this punch, this man's body and soul were annihilated at the same time. At the moment these two people died, a total of 5 qualification tokens appeared on their bodies and quickly disappeared into Han Fei and Feng Xingliu's wrists. What? How is it possible? Oh no, retreat. Rumble, rumble, the sky changed, and 2 great Daos crossed the sky, indicating the fall of 2 celestial transformation powerhouses. The youth surnamed Yi's expression changed greatly. He was extremely shocked. How could he be so strong? One move, it was just one move. How strong were they? One had just turned into a star, while the other was rather dim, as if it hadn't turned into a star yet. How could he kill a powerhouse who had been at the celestial transformation realm for many years in one move? However, at this moment, Han Fei and Feng Xingliu were already charging at them. They were so fast that they had to deal with them. Because he had underestimated the enemy, they were very close to each other. Who would have thought that these 2 people would kill his teammate in one move? Moreover, the 2 of them did not stop at all and directly rushed towards them. The youth with the surname Yi didn't even think about it and immediately retreated. It was one thing for him to abandon his 2 companions, but this time, he had made a mistake. For the other party to be able to display such strength despite his cultivation realm, he was definitely a genius. It wasn't worth it for him to fight 1 against 2. Mainly, he felt that a person who hadn't turned into a star could kill a celestial transformation realm powerhouse, which showed that he had amazing potential. He might not win. Seeing that the youth surnamed Yi was about to run, Han Fei had an idea. Feng Xingliu, these 2 people are yours. Feng Xingliu was overjoyed. Then I'll be fighting 1 against 3, and you'll be fighting 1 against 2. I'll win. Okay, Fire Phoenix confinement. Flaming saber. Han Fei ignored Feng Xingliu. After bursting out 6 times the speed of light, he intercepted the guy who was running at less than 5 times the speed of light in the blink of an eye. To be honest, Han Fei was surprised. This person must have a powerful background. He was not at the late stage of the celestial transformation realm, but he could burst out at nearly 5 times the speed of light. This kind of person was definitely a genius. At least, in the scavenger city, he would be a first-class powerhouse. However, the youth surnamed Yi was even more surprised than Han Fei, even horrified. He subconsciously thought, how is this possible? How can he burst out faster than light without turning into a star? How can he surpass me without turning into a star? This speed is at least 5 times, close to 6 times the speed of light? What kind of monster is this? After forcing the youth surnamed E to stop, Han Fei punched back. The latter didn't dare to be careless. With a burst of white light, he also punched at Han Fei. Bim kacha! Bim, the entire right arm of the youth surnamed E, together with a small part of his body, exploded. But Han Fei's pupils constricted slightly because he saw this person's exploded flesh and blood, bathed in the white light, instantly return to normal, as if he had never been pierced. Han Fei knew how strong he was. Even without the god-slaying gloves, he still had the power of more than 9 million waves, plus he could punch out a fist soul. Logically speaking, this punch should have blown up half of this person's body and destroyed part of his soul. However, this magical white light seemed to be even more magical than his heaven-awakening divine technique. It actually healed his body smoothly. This person retreated 10,000 kilometers, and Han Fei didn't chase him. As the man retreated, a door of light that emitted a holy light appeared behind him. Heavenly clan? Han Fei said lightly, "Are you from the gate of heaven?" Over the years, Han Fei had learned a little about the heavenly clan. The gate of heaven was just a general name for the entire force of the heavenly clan. They were like the Fist Light Mountain Peak and the Ghost Strait, which were equivalent to a mountain gate. However, in the gate of heaven, it was the heavenly clan that ruled everything. In the divine land of the East Ocean, the gate of heaven was a very powerful force, second only to the divine capital dynasty and equally famous as the terror capital. In terms of overall strength and external activities, it was better than places like the Fist Light Mountain Peak and the Ghost Strait. However, Han Fei didn't understand what the gate behind them meant. The young man surnamed E said, "Yes, I'm not only from the gate of heaven, but also from the heavenly clan. Fellow Taoist, no discord, no concord. If those people died, then so be it. However, you and I are both heavenly talents. If we can join forces, who can be our match?" With only one punch, the young man surnamed E knew that he was no match for this person. If it weren't for his gate of talent, he would have been seriously injured by that punch just now. That punch could hurt the body and the soul. He didn't know what method the other party used. But this person must be a top heavenly talent of the Fist Light Mountain Peak to be able to reach such a level. He didn't dare to imagine that if that kind of punch came a few more times, he would probably be hammered to death. Therefore, he took the initiative to propose cooperation. He believed that with the reputation of the gate of heaven and his identity as a disciple of the heavenly clan, in terms of seniority, he shouldn't be any worse than this person. If he could get this help, he could even grab many qualification tokens. However, Han Fei glanced at him contemptuously. "Who do you think you are? Do you think you're qualified to cooperate with me? Are you qualified?" Rumble. Before Han Fei finished speaking, an astronomical phenomenon of the Great Path collapsing came from behind. It seemed that Feng Xinglu had killed another one. Han Fei wasn't surprised. Except for Feng Xinglu at the late stage of the star transformation realm, these people were no match for him at all. The young man's face changed drastically, and he took out a talisman. As he waved his hand, the talisman unfolded, and billions of sword currents surged towards Han Fei. After throwing this blow, the young man didn't say a word and was ready to escape at the speed of light. However, Han Fei stepped into the void and ignored the billions of sword currents. The void around him was twisted, and the power of this talisman fell on him less than 1/10. Han Fei didn't even try to block this 1/10. He directly punched at the young man surnamed E. Bam. The power of this punch was 30% stronger than before, because Han Fei had slightly activated the Great Path. Mainly, he wanted to see how effective the light gate was. He didn't believe that a random person or a random door could surpass his heavenly awakening divine technique. That was unbelievable. The young man's whole body exploded, but under the cover of the white light, he recovered the next moment. Interesting. Bam, bam, bam. Golden fist marks burst out continuously. The youth surnamed E shattered it again and again. On the 7th time, the door of light finally dimmed. But this time, Han Fei didn't attack again. "You're not going to kill me?" Rumble. In the distance, a celestial phenomenon appeared again. Feng Xingliu had already killed 3-star transformation cultivators. Yuan was horrified. The god of killing with fire was here. He never thought that he would die in such a way. But the next moment, Han Fei didn't attack but looked at him with his fists folded. At this time, Feng Xingliu had already flown over. When he rushed to Han Fei and stopped, he laughed. "I won. I can't believe you haven't been killed yet." Han Fei shrugged indifferently. "Yes, you won." Feng Xingliu's surging aura was immediately extinguished. He was speechless. You just gave up?" Han Fei didn't even know how to communicate with Feng Xingliu. He said, "Well done. Hey, why are you shaking so much?" "Am I shaking?" Feng Xingliu looked down, only to find that his legs and hands were shaking, and so was his body. Unconsciously, Feng Xingliu's voice trembled. I killed someone for the first time. Yes, I'm a little nervous." "Huh." Chapter 2290. Han Fei couldn't help but widen his eyes. "Fuck, look at your ferocious look. I thought you had slaughtered countless people. The first time I killed someone? Are you kidding me?" But he soon realized that he was talking about the first time he killed a humanoid similar to him. As for those sea demons and sea beasts, some of them would be killed in fights. However, this was not within Feng Xingliu's consideration. Judging from the reaction this guy showed along the way, he and Feng Qingqing were both newbies who had just entered society. The difference was that Feng Qingqing was smart. However, Han Fei thought to himself, these big clans must have cultivated their decisive character from an early age, right? For example, when Han Fei and the others were still fishermen, they had already started the fishing trial and then fought for resources between villages. Han Fei didn't want Feng Xingliu to expose all his trump cards to Yuan, so he interrupted, "Then you can tremble and see how I deal with it." Then he pointed at Yuan and said, "I won't kill you. Give me the qualification token first, and then give me all the resources you have." Yuan was shocked. "Won't kill me?" His first thought was that Han Fei still feared his identity as a member of the Heavenly Clan, or that he had some trump cards of the Heavenly Clan, so Han Fei didn't want to kill him directly. Thinking of this, Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. If the qualification token was gone, he could just fight for it with his strength. If the resources were gone, it would be the same. Anyway, in the hunting ground outside the divine capital, a large number of people came to participate in the major competition of 10,000 years. Yuan shook his wrist, and 9 qualification tokens flew out in a row. He said, "These are all the qualification tokens I have right now. The resources in the Origin Sea are not very abundant, only less than 70,000 kilometers. You can have them all." "So poor?" Feng Xingliu, who had been silent, couldn't help but say, "Didn't they say that the Heavenly Clan is a very powerful force? How come you can't even take out resources within 100,000 kilometers?" Yuan's cheeks were burning. The Heavenly Clan was indeed a heavenly clan, but it didn't mean that every member of the Heavenly Clan was filthy rich. Besides, I'm in the late stage of celestial transformation. If I really need to use resources, I can use a lot of them. The resources stored in the Origin Sea are just normal reserves. Who would store resources for hundreds of thousands of miles, or even millions of miles? If they had those resources, they would have used them a long time ago. According to Han Fei's personality, he definitely wouldn't let it go so easily. He might even want to see Yuan's source see. But today, he casually took the resources and asked, "What's your name?" "Yuan." Yuan did not know why the other party knew his name. Perhaps it was to verify his identity, so he did not hide it. Han Fei nodded. "Yuan, right? From now on, you have half a month's time. Half a month later, I will find you again. There's no reason, it's just that I don't like your Tian clan." "Yuan?" Feng Xingliu looked at Han Fei in shock. How could someone beat someone up be so straightforward? Yuan's heart sank. The next moment, he felt that Han Fei was approaching him. He tried to resist, but Han Fei's fists pushed him away. Bang, bang, bang. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Han Fei punched Yuan's head hundreds of times, beating him into a pig's head, and then kicked him away. Yuan didn't dare to stay any longer. He broke into a run and heard Han Fei shouting behind him, "Remember, you only have half a month. Don't run if you have the guts. I'll beat you up every time I see you." Yuan was still trembling in fury even after he ran far away. "Bastard, bastard, no matter who you are, next time, I'll grind you into dust and stuff you into the infinite void." After what he did last night, Han Fei put away the 9 qualification tokens happily and then looked at Feng Xingliu, who was still shocked. "Look, I got 12 qualification tokens. What about you?" Feng Xingliu's face darkened. 9, but we didn't compete. Also, why did you let him go? What if he ran away? Who would have the time to chase him? Han Fei's lips curled. "Do you know the Tian clan?" Feng Xingliu nodded. "I do. It's a big force on the East Ocean Divine Land. I learned about it on my way here." Han Fei was intrigued. "Oh, tell me about it." Feng Xingliu pondered for a moment. "Isn't it enough to know about the Tian clan? What else do you want to know?" Han Fei was dumbfounded. "I only know the name and you say you know it?" Damn it, Han Fei was lost for words. "Aren't you curious about this super force? When they fight, a door of light appears. Aren't you curious?" Feng Xingliu said, "I'm not curious. Feng Qingqing knows everything. I can just ask her. You haven't told me why you let him go yet." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Let me give you an example. For example, I met you by chance and we met on the street. Then I beat you up, snatched your god artifact, stole your resources, and beat you black and blue. Then I said that I would beat you up every time I saw you, and I would continue to look for you in a few days. What would you do?" Feng Xingliu said, "I'll beat you to death." Han Fei said, "You can't beat me." Feng Xingliu's eyes were about to spurt fire. He shouted, "Then I'll call my brothers and sisters to beat you to death." But Han Fei clapped his hands. "That's right. You'd be angry too. What do you think Yuan will do? Will he call his brothers and sisters to beat me up too?" Feng Xingliu was a little confused. "That's for sure. So, when the time comes, we can rob their brothers and sisters again. After robbing them, we will let them all go, and then let them summon another group of brothers and sisters, and we will rob them again. Then we can wait for the resources of the competition to be delivered to us, right? Does that mean we don't have to look for enemies by stargazing?" Feng Xingliu was suddenly enlightened. "That makes sense. With their strength, I can beat a group of them, and the two of us can beat a lot of them." "Well, I didn't know that." Feng Xingliu's heart trembled. He felt that he had learned another trick. Then his body continued to tremble. Han Fei asked, "Why are you still trembling?" Feng Xingliu didn't care at all. "I don't know. I can't control myself. I just want to shake. By the way, cultivation is not easy. Was I too impulsive today? I used to let people live when I beat them up, but I couldn't control myself this time. It feels weird." Han Fei said, "There are mountains of corpses and seas of blood on the path of cultivation. If you don't kill people, others will. This is a dog-eat-dog world. Didn't your family teach you that?" Feng Xingliu said, "They did. But I rarely came out before. I didn't expect that the fight would be so fierce." Half a month later. During this period of time, Feng Qingqing's main goal was to find someone to practice her skills on. Unfortunately, this lady's strange magnetic fire was too strong and there were not many people who could withstand her attacks. Hence, after searching for half a month, Feng Qingqing was still unable to find a suitable opponent. During this time, Han Fei also learned some information about the heavenly clans from Feng Qingqing. The so-called heavenly clans were said to be a god who called himself the heavenly emperor in the history of this clan. He was said to be a very powerful god who could suppress the heavenly Tao. Because their ancestors were powerful, no matter how poor their descendants' bloodlines were, they couldn't be much worse. Therefore, some heavenly talents often appeared in the heavenly clans. As for the light gate behind them, the principle was this. The so-called light gate, like the Yin family in the primordial city, was a manifestation of bloodline. The heavenly clans called these light gates the heavenly gates, saying that the heavenly Tao gave them an extra power. Behind each light gate was a person who had awakened a mysterious talent other than self-cultivation. There were all kinds of talents, and there were all kinds of situations. In battle, if they encountered a strong opponent, they could summon the light gate, just like the family's triangular divine seal. Hearing Feng Qingqing's explanation, Han Fei understood. No wonder Feng Xingliu took Feng Qingqing with him when he escaped. If it weren't for Feng Qingqing, this guy would have been killed by his stupidity. Half a month later, Yi Yuan and the others, leaning against the periphery of a camp in the wilderness, only did some ordinary hunting. He wasn't sure whether Han Fei would come back or not. But whether Han Fei would come back or not, he couldn't take it lying down. This time, he called all the people he should call. In a short time, he called a total of 13 people, none of whom were weaker than him. Someone said, "Yi Yuan, are you sure that person will come?" Someone laughed. "It's almost been half a month, right?" Someone sneered. "This time, even though those two are geniuses, with our strength, we won't lose no matter what." Someone said coldly, "My imprisonment gate is enough to stop them from losing their combat power. Plus, Yi Yang's Heaven Lock Gate prevents them from borrowing the power of the Heavenly Tao. Even if they have extraordinary means, I don't believe that two people can turn the world upside down." The dozen or so people did not conceal themselves, nor did they hide in anyone's origin sea. They just openly wandered around on the sea. Just when most of them didn't think that Han Fei and the others would come to them, they suddenly sensed something. They looked into the distance and saw two figures rushing over. From afar, Han Fei sneered. "Yi Yuan, you only found a dozen people. Who are you looking down on?" Chapter 2291. From the very beginning, Han Fei had foreseen this scene. He knew that Yi Yuan wouldn't leave, and he would definitely come back to the gang. This was a common problem among the children of large clans. It was mainly because of the pride in their bones and the face they had on their faces, which made them want to get back at them after suffering a loss. When Yi Yuan saw Han Fei and Feng Xingliu, he was enraged. He roared, "It's them! It's them! They're so ferocious that they don't respect the heavenly race at all." Yi Yuan was enraged, and his emotions seemed to be contagious. Someone immediately yelled, "Boy, I heard that you're a genius. You defeated Yi Yuan before turning into a star, and you even asked him to come back to find you. Now that I'm here, don't run if you dare." Han Fei looked at Feng Xingliu, and Feng Xingliu immediately raised his voice. "You're just an ant. You think you can make me run? Come on, I'm going to beat 12 of you today." Han Fei was speechless. "You're just making enemies. Since when did I let you beat 12 of them? Do you want to lose face?" However, no matter whether or not Feng Xingliu could beat 12 of them, the other side exploded as soon as he said that. Yi Yuan roared, "This is the bastard who killed 4 of my friends. How can I vent my hatred if I don't kill him today?" Feng Xingliu raised his chin proudly and looked at Yi Yuan and the others with his nostrils, saying coldly, "Ants, come here and die." "I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill him." But some of the heavenly race were calm and sneered. "While you're not dead yet, tell us your names. If the heavenly race comes to us, we'll destroy your people too." Han Fei raised his head. "I'll tell you when you win. Ants don't deserve to know our names." Feng Xingliu was instantly enlivened. Ants didn't deserve to know him. Although Han Fei had a bad temper, he was quite nice when he talked tough to his enemies. He wondered what Feng Yu would think after learning that Feng Xingliu had been led astray by Han Fei. At least for now, Feng Xingliu felt very excited. "Open the heavenly gate." Han Fei was taken aback. "Isn't this my spear art?" In the next moment, a door appeared behind each of the 13 people, including Yi Yuan. The doors were wide open and shone resplendently. It was as if they were gods who had descended to the mortal world with their own doors. Heaven lock. A strange light burst out from the door. The next moment, Han Fei felt that the power of the way of heaven was blocked in this place, making it impossible for him to borrow strength. Han Fei sneered in his heart. "Wow, this guy's talent is not bad. He can block the way of heaven. Interesting." Following that, someone shouted, "Imprison, Kingdom of Heaven Seal." However, as soon as the technique was used, Han Fei and Feng Xingliu felt that their bodies were in a space that was dozens of times stronger than before. Everything within 100,000 miles seemed to have been sealed, but this power should only be limited to him and Feng Xinglu. Feng Xingliu frowned slightly and seemed to feel a bit uncomfortable, but he didn't think much of it. Since Han Fei looked calm, he had to be calm too, and he couldn't lose to him. Then, from the celestial race's side, someone coldly shouted, "Sword domain life." A wave of swords exploded in the void. Someone shouted, "Unparalleled strength, extreme speed, soul-killing technique." Instantly, all kinds of talents descended here. Feng Xingliu, who had been looking down on the celestial race, felt a bit bad when he saw all the powerful techniques in the sky. He didn't have the experience. He didn't know if he could defeat all 12 of them. He couldn't help but glance at Han Fei, only to find that Han Fei entered calmly and glanced at him indifferently. He said, "Just use your full strength. Otherwise, you'll be beaten up." At that moment, Feng Xingliu's eyes were spitting fire, and his body was covered in flames. Who is he looking down on? I'm a heavenly talent of the Feng family, unparalleled in the world. Can these people beat me? Fire God's tentacles, realm whip. Hum. As Feng Xingliu roared, the void shook, and the sword domain was already unstable. Countless fire tentacles swung in the sky with shocking power, shattering the sword chi and shaking the void. At this moment, Yuan and the other 12 people had all charged over. Compared with the forces like the Ghost Strait and the Fist Mountain, the Door of Heaven followed the Tao of Balance. They advocated dual cultivation of energy and body to pursue balance. At this moment, these people all burst out, each showing the power that a late-stage star transformation cultivator didn't have. For example, the one with the speed talent could burst out 7 times the speed of light, even faster than Han Fei. And the one with the strength talent could burst out a terrifying force, which was much stronger than Han Fei when he didn't use the Tao. Of course, this was also because the power of the heavenly Tao was blocked and he couldn't borrow it. But in any case, he had been recognized as a top heavenly talent by Yuan, so it seemed reasonable that he could burst out super strong combat power. So, Han Fei didn't hide it. He secretly used the Tao and his strength doubled. Good heavens, when Han Fei's strength doubled, the fist imprint converged into a stream of light in the air. When the 5 Tian clan experts attacked Han Fei with their swords and fists, they were shocked to discover that this fellow's strength was a little too terrifying, wasn't it? Clank, clank, clank. Clang, clang, clang of them. Dumb, someone was shocked. That's strange. This guy's body is too strong. He's not afraid of the wind and fire swords. Someone was shocked. This guy's fist mark can shake my divine soul and almost penetrate it. Everyone, pay attention to his fist mark. Someone yelled, "He's tough. Use all the secret methods." Hum. It turned out that when a group of late-stage heaven-opening cultivators fully burst out, their strength was quite terrifying. Feng Xinglu was already extremely strong, wasn't he? But at this moment, he was fighting 1 against 5, and he didn't seem to be able to defeat them. Although he fought with great power and slapped the 5 overlords of the heavenly races back and forth, but he didn't have much experience. Seeing that they couldn't defeat Feng Xinglu, the heavenly races directly traded injuries for injuries. After all, not all the disciples from the big clans were as delicate as Feng Qingqing and Feng Xingliu, who had never seen the world. So, when this method of trading injuries for injuries appeared, Feng Xinglu was shocked. He kept exclaiming, "And how dare you hurt me? Aunt, you hurt me. I'm going to burn you. Aunt, do you want to die? You hurt yourself more. Aunt, how dare you hurt me? You're done for. You won't see tomorrow's sun. Aunt." Feng Xinglu howled in pain, gritting his teeth in pain. His mouth was like a machine gun, spitting out random things. But in fact, these people didn't dare to underestimate Han Fei and Feng Xinglu anymore. They could understand Feng Xinglu. Perhaps he was a disciple of a super force. Although he was strong, he lacked combat experience and relied on brute force to fight. Because he relied on his powerful moves, the heavenly races were beaten black and blue and asked for help. There were only 5 of them and they couldn't withstand Feng Xinglu's bombardment. At this moment, they had been pierced once on average. However, although the battle on the other side wasn't so beautiful, the 8 people besieging Han Fei were all suffering. Because they were shocked to find that their bodies couldn't withstand Han Fei's punches. As long as Han Fei's punch landed on them, half of their bodies would explode, and their souls would also be impacted. Although there were 8 of them, their soul attacks and physical attacks couldn't shake Han Fei at all. Their soul attacks seemed to be stuck in a quagmire and couldn't even make a splash. Han Fei resisted their physical attacks with his body. So far, they could only cut open Han Fei's flesh with an ultra-quality sea-quelling bizarre treasure and a divine weapon. However, this guy also had a super strong recovery ability. The wounds were bathed in divine light and healed after a few hits. For a moment, the brothers that Yuan called were all dumbfounded. They were starting to use their secret methods. If they couldn't beat him, it wouldn't be their problem, but Han Fei's strength was completely beyond the understanding of normal heaven-opening experts. Retreat. Yuan, stop fighting. This guy is tough. There's no point in continuing. Hearing this, many people already wanted to retreat. They didn't know where these 2 animals came from, but they were too strong for them to deal with. However, at this moment, Han Fei shouted, "You want to leave now? Don't you think it's over? Feng Xingliu, stop hiding your strength. Attack with all your strength and take them down." Feng Xingliu was shocked. How did Han Fei know that he was hiding his strength? He didn't use his real killing technique, because his family said that it was too powerful and shouldn't be used carelessly under normal circumstances. Feng Xingliu couldn't help but admire Han Fei. He could even see through my hidden killing technique. On the other side, Han Fei attacked with all his strength, speed, and soul at the same time. He punched one of them, and the latter's body seemed to twist, collapse, and explode. However, as soon as Han Fei pierced through one person, he suddenly heard a rumbling sound. He couldn't help but look at Feng Xingliu, and he was immediately dumbfounded. A soaring fire phoenix appeared behind Feng Xingliu. The fire phoenix reached out its claws and crushed a heavenly expert. Even his light gate dimmed and disappeared. Hiss! Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, Feng Xingliu is really something. Why didn't I notice this guy had such a powerful divine skill before? He had no idea that Feng Xingliu's ultimate move had been revealed just because he said, "Don't hide it anymore." The fire phoenix nodded and pecked a heavenly expert who was about to escape. His soul was destroyed, and the rumbling sound came again. Han Fei hurriedly shouted, "Feng Xingliu, keep him alive." Chapter 2292. A moment later, in front of Han Fei and Feng Xingliu, 10 people were suppressed. They were all nailed to the seabed by a weird spear and lined up in a row. Among the 13 people, 2 of them were killed by Feng Xingliu because Han Fei didn't have time to warn him. The other one ran away because he was faster than Han Fei. There was no need to say anything. At this moment, Feng Xingliu's chest was heaving up and down, and his body was trembling slightly. In order to suppress the trembling, Feng Xingliu almost jumped up and down like he was on drugs. Han Fei couldn't do anything to him anymore. He was an eyesore. He could only turn his head and not look at this idiot. At this moment, the 10 people of the Heavenly Clan were shocked because the power that Han Fei had just unleashed was at least 30% stronger. They didn't know how this guy could become stronger without limit. Anyway, Han Fei could punch one person at a time, and their souls were attacked. They couldn't run at all, and they couldn't outrun Han Fei. Top heavenly talents. At this moment, they realized what kind of expert they had encountered. Before, Yuan wasn't strong enough to test Han Fei's strength at all. He only felt that they were a bit stronger than him, but not to the extent that he couldn't resist. But now, with so many of them, they could finally test the true combat strength of these 2 people. These 2 were both top-notch genius-level powerhouses. If the top heavenly talents of the Heavenly Clan didn't come out, they would have to double the number of people to suppress these 2 lunatics. At this moment, Han Fei stood in front of Yuan, who was lying on the seabed. His body was sealed by the spear and he couldn't move at all. This was the terrifying thing about the god's sealing spear. Feng Xingliu had already secretly asked Han Fei what kind of sealing technique it was and wanted to secretly learn it. Yuan was horrified. I'm doomed this time. I didn't expect that I would be defeated by the same person twice. Last time, Han Fei didn't want to kill him. Maybe he wanted to use him to lure more heavenly talents. But this time, it was 13 against 2, and his side was crushed. Would Han Fei let the 10 of them go? The others were also terrified, thinking that they were going to die this time. Participating in the 10,000-year competition, because they had the qualification token, they could not use some of their trump cards. Otherwise, if they were detected by Dongwu Great Emperor's divine will, killing them would be a small matter, and it might even affect the heavenly clan. Bang! Han Fei's foot landed on Yuan's face and then he stomped hard. It was extremely insulting. As a heavenly talent of the Tian clan, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? Even though he had been reduced to a prisoner, he still roared angrily. Bang! Han Fei stepped on it and then smiled contemptuously. Are you looking down on me or something? I've already told you that I'll come find you in half a month. Look at yourself, what kind of repulsive people have you brought? He can't even take a beating. Feng Xingliu was dumbfounded by Han Fei's tone. He thought to himself that these people were already very powerful. If he were to fight 1 against 8, he might not be able to win easily if he didn't use his great technique. Just like that, and you're still looking down on me? However, he was on Han Fei's side now, so he naturally followed Han Fei's kick. Bang! This feeling is not bad. Feng Xingliu's eyes lit up. When he looked down from his vantage point, and remembered the way these people had talked to him when they first met, he felt like the winner was always right. I heard that Feng Yu is from the divine continent of Zhonghai. She defeated a whole bunch of people. Is this how it feels? This feels so good. No, I have to trample on a few more. Then, Han Fei saw Phoenix Starstream's mysterious operation. Bang, 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 Feng Xingliu stepped on them one by one, and he shouted, Ant, bang ant, bang ant, bang ant, Han Fei. Han Fei had no idea what was wrong with Feng Xingliu. He hurried to stop him. Can you stop? I'm asking a question. Feng Xingliu was a little disappointed. He wasn't done yet, but he still had one foot on someone's face. He didn't take it off, as if he was enjoying the feeling. Feng Xingliu said, Go ahead. Han Fei turned his head, only to be stunned. What the hell did I just say? It's all Feng Xingliu's fault. Han Fei snorted coldly. The heavenly clan is said to be amazing. It's said that the heavenly talents in your clan are as numerous as fish in the sea. Why don't I see any of them? Someone roared, The top heavenly talents of my clan won't care about such trifles. Don't you want to find the top heavenly talents of my clan? Let me go if you have the guts. I'll find them. Let's see if you dare to fight me. This person was just trying to infuriate Han Fei, because he was worried that Han Fei would only let 1 or 2 people go back to inform him, and then he would be doomed. So, he provoked first. Bam. Han Fei kicked him. Talk too much. Am I talking to you? Of course, Han Fei knew what the guy meant, but he didn't care. After kicking the guy, Han Fei said casually, I'll give you one more chance. Hand over your qualification badges and all your resources, and I'll let you go. A yuan, right? I'll come to you in a month. You'd better bring the top heavenly talents of your clan, or you'll die next time. Remember to give me all your resources. I have a way to tell if you're holding back. I'll kill anyone who dares to hold back. These people were horrified. They dared not challenge Han Fei at this moment. It was obviously not worth risking their lives for a few resources. However, they didn't bring many resources with them. None of them had more than 70,000 kilometers of resources. The one with the least was Yuan, who Han Fei robbed half a month ago, but he only had 8,000 kilometers of resources. Han Fei didn't feel good at that time. Perhaps because they knew that it was not good to bring too many resources in this hunting ground, these people generally didn't bring many resources. Han Fei said, Next time I find anyone with less than 50,000 kilometers of resources, I'll kill him on the spot. Bam, bam, bam. The seals on the god's sealing spear were broken one by one, and these people immediately fled. Shouldn't they be able to survive if they were weaker? After running for half a day, someone shouted angrily, Arrogant, arrogant. Next time, I'll call my cousin to come in person and trample on him for 3 days and 3 nights. Someone was furious. That guy who plays with fire, he's dead. I'll make him shout, I'm an ant, 10,000 times. Someone shouted angrily, I'll ask my cousin to take a divine weapon and cut them up. I'll make them eat stinky fish and shrimps and disgust them to death. That's right. Guys, if we don't get revenge, how can our minds be complete? Let's call for more people. A month later, we'll gather outside the Tomorrow camp and teach them a lesson. Okay, let's go. I'll go first. More than half a month later, Han Fei and Feng Xingliu still accompanied Feng Qingqing to hunt for Pioneer Sea Realm cultivators. They were just waiting for someone to hunt them and then they could snatch the resources. Anyway, with the support of the Heavenly Clan, they were not afraid that they couldn't get qualification tokens. What Han Fei and the others didn't know was that at this moment, in this hunting ground outside the Divine Capital Dynasty, some people were running around. Some strong cultivators who had been trampled by Han Fei found a big ship. Cousin, you have to help me. The handsome cousin who was drinking with the female cultivator of the Ghost Strait couldn't help but look displeased. You came to me after being beaten. You're so useless. The man hurriedly said, Cousin, you don't know. I don't know where these 2 guys with secret identities came from. One has just turned into a star, and the other hasn't, but they defeated 13 of my people. Blah blah. Cousin, he looks down on the top heavenly talents of the Heavenly Clan, which means he looks down on you. The handsome young man's face turned cold. Is there such a thing? You really have guts. Relying on your extraordinary status, you dare to bully my Tian clan. I will go with you and thwart his might. On the other side. Cousin, I was beaten up by someone. My resources and qualification tokens were all robbed. Blah blah. Cousin, that guy said that the Heavenly Clan has no heavenly talents and called us ants. I can't stand this. Bold? Calling the Heavenly Clan ants? How arrogant. Do you know which force he is from? Since he is a top heavenly talent, he is definitely not a nobody. Cousin, I don't know. They said that if we can't beat them, we don't deserve to know their names. But one of them has unparalleled boxing skills, and the other can control fire to defend against the enemy. I only suspect that one of them is from the Fist Light Mountain, and the other may be from the Terror City. Humph. A mere Fist Light Mountain dares to challenge the Heavenly Clan? The Terror City is just a defeated general. Wait for me to kill them with the God-slaying spear. The man was shocked. My cousin is going to use the God-slaying spear. Those 2 are dead. How can they fight against the Heavenly Clan? As if there are no top heavenly talents in every family. 1 month later, Tomorrow's camp. One figure after another appeared in the sea at the speed of light. Itanlong, you're here? Oh, Yi Shuelu, you're here too. Yi Jiajia, they actually invited you here. They're just 2 petty thieves. Are they really worth your time? Suddenly, someone looked up into the sky. There was someone riding on a flying dragonfish. That's Yi Xianling. Didn't he say that hunting is boring? Why is he here? Chapter 2293. The Tomorrow Camp was a famous camp on the periphery of the Divine Capital Dynasty. It was a large trading camp. The city here stretched for 30,000 kilometers. It was said that when the war between the divine land of the East Ocean and the sea demons was at its fiercest, the sea demons had fought all the way to the Tomorrow Camp. At that time, the Eastern Wu Hengtian and the Sea Demon Emperor fought fiercely and pushed them all the way to the Heavenly Pit. So far, the sea demons and the undead didn't dare to step into the Heavenly Pit. The experts of the Heavenly Clans gathered at the Tomorrow Camp, which couldn't escape the attention of those who were paying attention. For a moment, the independent cultivators and the big clans all wanted to see what had happened that caused so many top heavenly talents of the Heavenly Clans to come. At this moment, in the Tomorrow Camp, Han Fei, Feng Xingliu, and Feng Qingqing were sitting in a yard around a big pot. Slurp. Feng Xingliu was shocked and exclaimed, "They're all liars. Everyone in the clan is a liar. They said that cultivators don't need to eat and only need to swallow spiritual energy and chaotic energy. They never said that the hot pot would be so delicious. Feng Qingqing nodded quickly. I agree with you on that. It seems that the clan is still hiding something from us. It must be because they don't want us to be greedy, so they didn't tell us. Feng Xingliu nodded. Yes, liars. I didn't know that hot pot existed until I was 18 years old. Feng Qingqing nodded quickly. Yes. I wonder if you know about it, sister. Feng Xingliu and Feng Qingqing, who were talking about the hot pot, suddenly looked at Han Fei, who was spitting on the ground, and were stunned. What's wrong? Han Fei looked at them in shock. No, wait a minute. How old did you say you were? I'm not an educated person. Don't lie to me. Feng Xingliu wiped the corner of her mouth, grabbed a barbecued prawn, and said, 18. What's wrong? Han Fei suddenly looked at Feng Qingqing and asked, What about you? Feng Qingqing thought for a moment. Brother Han Fei, although I'm only 11 years old, you don't have to be surprised. Because our way of calculating age may be different from yours. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. That's more like it, but he wasn't sure how old they were. Feng Qingqing said, In our family, every 100 years is counted as 1 year, so according to normal time, Feng Shiliu is 1,800 years old. Feng Xinglu said while stuffing garlic prawns into his mouth, Yeah, that's right. He waved his hand and put away the hot pot. Immediately, Feng Xingliu shouted, Hey, hey! I haven't finished. Han Fei scoffed. I'll let you finish your speech. What's there to eat? The enemies are already here. Let's eat after the fight. Feng Xinglu glanced at the outer realm and muttered, Isn't there a lot of people coming back? There are more than 30 of them, and it seems like there are a few more powerful ones. Han Fei scoffed. Isn't that obvious? If they don't find someone powerful, are they just waiting to be slaughtered by us? Remember this. This time, if we can keep them alive, we will do our best to keep them alive. Our first windfall is about to come. Feng Xinglu's eyes lit up. Haven't we already been here? I already have 29 qualification tokens, and there are still 200,000 kilometers left in the resource realm. What Feng Xinglu was bragging about was not the 200,000 miles. He was saying that he had personally earned these resources, and that he had earned so much. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Look at you. You call that a windfall? If you got so many resources at once, it might be a windfall, but it took you 2 months to get them. That's called labor. Do you understand? Feng Xinglu glanced in the direction of the heavenly clan. Is this the standard for a windfall? Han Fei pondered for a moment. The standard for a windfall is different at every stage. It depends on your needs. For example, if you and I can't each get 500,000 kilometers of resources, it won't be a windfall at all. Feng Xinglu was shocked. He wasn't an idiot. 500,000 miles of wealth was not a small amount. How could he just do it so easily? Feng Qingqing said, Brother Han Fei, it's not easy to get so many resources, right? The difference between 500,000 kilometers of resources and 100,000 kilometers of resources is huge. Everyone knew in their hearts that when calculating the resources, they would start from 0 and expand outwards by 10,000 miles. If the origin sea expanded by 100,000 kilometers, it would be 100,000 kilometers of resources. If the origin sea expanded by 500,000 kilometers, it would be 500,000 kilometers of resources. 500,000 li of resources was 25 times more than 100,000 li of resources. The reason why Han Fei decided to slaughter the Heavenly Clan was that he would have to spend a lot of resources on this trip to the Divine Capital Dynasty. If he didn't make a fortune, he wouldn't feel confident. On the Tian clan's ship that was branded with the Tian clan's gate seal, the 4 great geniuses occupied the bow of the ship. They each chose a comfortable position, leaning against or sitting down. Of the 4, 2 were men and 2 were women. The tall and handsome man was called Sky Dragon. He was good at fist techniques, but if you thought that was all, you would be wrong. He was also good at Divine Soul Dao. The one in green with a long and thin sheath saber was called Yi Shuelu. He was good at saber techniques and was among the top 5 in the heavenly clan. Few people in the same realm could block one of his saber attacks. The one with a crooked braid was called Ijia. She was cute and very particular about her image. She carried a small bag on her back and was good at universe arts. The one who came on the flying dragonfish was called Yi Xianling. She was very good at seduction techniques and was among the top 3 in the heavenly clan. But she knew more than these mental techniques. Her god-slaying spear had once suppressed a late-stage star transformation expert. Seeing everyone, Yi Xianling giggled. Yo, Jia is here too? Are you here to see a man or to fight? Yi Jia looked at him coldly and sneered, Do you think they are all like a fox? I don't want to talk to you. At this moment, the burly man said, Hey, don't fight every time you see each other. Why do women make things difficult for other women? Shut up. Yi Jia and Yi Xianling scolded him at the same time. Li Yunlong shrugged and thought to himself, Go ahead and fight. Hey, go ahead and fight. Yi Shuilu was a cold guy. He snorted. The enemies seem to be here. Immediately, Yi Tianlong and the others stopped bickering with each other. Their gazes turned in the direction of the Bright Moon campsite. There were 2 young men walking over leisurely. One of them was holding a few skewers of grilled prawns and eating them as he walked. He didn't care about his image at all. In fact, the 4 of them came not only because the disciples of the heavenly clan came to them for help. They were really curious about what kind of people could defeat 13 heavenly prodigies of the heavenly clan with just the 2 of them. Moreover, one of them had yet to reach the star transformation realm. From the description of Yi Yuan and the others, they confirmed that these 2 people were not people that Yi Yuan and the others could deal with. And they wanted to fight the heavenly talents of the heavenly clan in advance, so they came. Looking at the fiery Feng Xingliu and Han Fei, who looked like an orthodox human being. Yi Jia exclaimed, Little brother, you're so handsome. Yi Xianling scoffed. You said you didn't come here to find a man. Yi Jia scoffed. Old woman, do you think I'm like you? The corner of Yi Xianling's mouth twitched. Yi Jia, just wait for me to tear your mouth apart. In the rear, Yi Yuan and the others' eyes turned red when they saw Han Fei and the others. Yi Yuan roared, It's them, it's them. Someone shouted, Cousin, it's the one who played with fire who stepped on me. Just beat him up. Leave him to me. Someone was furious. Cousin, the one who played with fire is not the craziest. The one next to him, you must nail him to death. I'll support you. Yi Xianling looked back and shouted coldly, All of you, shut up, a bunch of good-for-nothings. At this moment, Yi Tianlong stepped on the bow of the boat, looking at Han Fei and Feng Xingliu from afar, and his voice rolled away. Are you the 2 of you who repeatedly robbed the heavenly clan and said that there are no good people in the heavenly clan? With a faint smile on his face, Han Fei replied as he walked, It's me. I see that the heavenly talents of the heavenly clan are a mess. Why, you 3 are dressed in fancy clothes, and you even have a little girl with you. What? Are you going to give her to my brother as a wife? Feng Xingliu immediately looked at Han Fei. How do you know that I like this type? Han Fei rolled his eyes and ignored him. The little girl Yi Jia snorted. Hee, little brother, it depends on whether your brother next to you is a good match or not. It was just a part of cursing, but when Feng Xingliu heard that, he immediately became serious. And, who do you think is not a good match? Yi Jia? Han Fei felt guilty. He didn't know why Feng Xingliu called him an ant after he followed him. This ant didn't offend him at all. Yi Xianling said, Tiski. Since you're here, why don't you tell me your names? Han Fei chuckled. If you want to know our names, it depends on whether you're qualified. I heard that you're the top heavenly talents of the heavenly clan. Let's see if you can take my fists or not. Yi Tianlong sneered. You want to fight? Sure. My fists are not among the top 10 in my level, but it's more than enough to beat you. Han Fei sneered. You're not in the top 10. Do you think you're qualified to fight me? I once shook the north and the south with my fists, and I call myself the #1 fist king in the world. You're just a nobody. Do you think you're qualified to fight me? Feng Xingliu looked at Han Fei again. Did he just say that? Han Fei called himself the #1 fist king in the world. How could he be weak? Immediately, Feng Xingliu roared, I once burned the sea and divine beasts with fire, and I called myself the #1 fire emperor in the world. Ants, why aren't you handing over the resources? The experts of the heavenly clan? Yi Tianlong and the others were also speechless. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean by the best in the world? Have you ever seen the human world? Behind Han Fei and the others, many experts of the tomorrow's camp followed them to watch the battle. Hearing the two bragging, they were all speechless. Do you know who you're facing? Do you know who you're talking about? Chapter 2294. Outside the camp, there were many onlookers. The Sky Race chose the camp to consolidate their prestige and suppress these so-called heavenly talents who provoked the Sky Race. Since the top heavenly talents of the Sky Race were all here, a group battle was obviously impossible. Their pride wouldn't allow them to fight 4 against 2, let alone dozens against 2. Therefore, Tianlong stood straight at the bow of the ship and was the first to take action. Don't talk about useless things. I am Yi Tianlong, a disciple of the 5th lineage of the Sky Race. You have provoked the Sky Race. Even if you are at the top of the EC race, you must give me an explanation today. Which one of you will come first? Yi Tianlong looked straight at Han Fei. He knew that Han Fei was good at punching, extremely powerful punching. He was probably a top heavenly talent who had reached the peak of the Fist Radiance Mountain. Although the overall status of the Sky Race was higher than that of the Fist Radiance Mountain, it didn't mean that the top heavenly talents of the Sky Race dared to underestimate the top heavenly talents of the Fist Radiance Mountain. The wilderness was vast. Everyone knew that no matter which family, it was possible to have a strong cultivator. However, heavenly talents had their own pride. They all felt that their strength and talent were the best. Especially Han Fei, who hadn't turned into a star warrior. Yi Tianlong didn't think that there was anyone in this world who hadn't turned into a star warrior who could beat him, no matter how others boasted about how strong he was. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. You mean you want to fight me one-on-one? Big guy, it's not that I look down on you, but you don't know how to write the word stupid. Wow, at that time, the Tian clan's ship was in an uproar. Although they knew that Han Fei was arrogant, he was a bit too arrogant, wasn't he a bit too arrogant? Someone immediately scolded, don't be arrogant. Brother Tianlong is a top cultivator of the Tao of Balance. Do you think you are the only one who can fight? Who gave you the confidence to look down on the strong cultivators in the world? Han Fei picked his ear and smiled. Is that so? Then come. Since you insist on coming, I can only fulfill your wish. Then Han Fei stepped forward. Golden light shone on his arms. He deliberately pretended that his boxing skills were amazing. On the Tian clan side, Yi Xianling and the others were also happy to see Tianlong and Han Fei fight. Yi Tianlong's strength was enough to prove Han Fei's true strength. On the other side, they weren't worried about the Phoenix Star Stream. After all, water and fire were incompatible. The Phoenix Star Stream would definitely belong to Yi Tianlong. When the Tian clan rankers rushed over, the nearby sea creatures had already escaped. Even though their battle would most likely take place in the void and would not involve the real sea, ordinary creatures did not dare to take the risk. Following a series of whooshes, several figures entered the rift and entered the rift. As soon as he entered the void, Yi Tianlong launched a fierce attack on Han Fei. Han Fei saw that the opponent's fist marks were rumbling and punched out the light-speed fist easily too. Also, Yi Tianlong's fist marks were full of the stinging sensation of metal, as if they were sharp sabers. However, why would Han Fei be afraid? Han Fei's golden fist marks burst out, and the two instantly fought fiercely. Dong, 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 bang, bang, bang. Terrifying void ripples vibrated in the void, and the power was so strong that it caused a series of ripples that didn't stop. Even the people in the outside world felt that the void here seemed to be about to shatter and dared not to get too close. Above the void, the two fought for 100 minutes and had punched each other hundreds of thousands of times. Bam! The two flew backward at the same time. Han Fei slightly turned his head, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. After a short time, Han Fei knew that Yi Tianlong's body refining was not as good as his. His physical injuries were more serious than Han Fei's, but Yi Tianlong should have gone a long way after turning into a star, and his talent should be a kind of physical strengthening power, like body hardening. But even so, he was still much weaker than Han Fei. However, in general, this person's physique was not bad. The Tian clan must have some body-refining divine arts. Han Fei tried his best to get some body-refining arts, which might have been easily obtained by him when he was young. If he had been practicing since he was young, his current cultivation level wouldn't be weak. In addition to his good physique, Yi Tianlong's attacks also carried soul attacks. However, this kind of soul attack was much weaker than Han Fei's double kill, because Yi Tianlong's attack was only in the category of a major technique. Just like Han Fei's ownerless soul, although it could also hurt the souls of others, it was useless for those who had cultivated yang souls. Therefore, Yi Tianlong's fist technique was useless for Han Fei. He couldn't shake Han Fei's yang soul at all. Therefore, after a tentative hand-to-hand combat, Yi Tianlong's blood surged, his body was bruised, and some places were cracked and bleeding. It seemed that his injuries were more serious than Han Fei's. Seeing this scene, Yi Shuelu, Yi Jiajia, and Yi Xianling couldn't help but narrow their eyes. Yi Tianlong was one of the best body-refining cultivators in his generation. In the entire door to heaven, among those in the same realm, Yi Tianlong could touch the threshold of the top 10. Yi Xianling said, although this person won slightly, he is not much stronger than Yi Tianlong. Now, it's up to them to show their potential. Yi Jiajia scoffed. Humph. This person's strength is not bad. It's normal for the two of them to defeat Yuan and the others. It seems that the Fist Light Mountain has a good brother. Different from the Heavenly Clan, the overlords who came to watch tomorrow's camp were all shocked. They knew who Yi Tianlong was, but they had no idea who Han Fei was. Many people guessed, this must be the top heavenly talent of the Fist Light Mountain. I have seen records from ancient times. The Fist Light Mountain was an existence that once suppressed the Heavenly Clan and the Terror City. It is said that when the Fist God was born, his fist broke the galaxy. Later, there were often intergenerational inheritances. I wonder if this person has the bloodline of the Fist God. Someone sneered. Do you believe it? How many tens of thousands of years ago was that? I don't believe in the bloodline of the Fist God, but the Fist Light Mountain is one of the super forces after all. It's not surprising that a few overlords came from it. Someone was amazed. These two are so arrogant and dare to provoke the Heavenly Clan. It seems that this time they are going to shine in the 10,000-year competition. Someone shook his head slightly. I don't think it's enough. Although Yi Tianlong is strong, he is not the strongest. In the past 100,000 years, the Heavenly Clan has a terrifying reputation and strength that surpasses the Terror City. There should be a lot of people who are more talented than Yi Tianlong. At this moment, behind Yi Tianlong, a door of light appeared, and red threads of light appeared on Yi Tianlong's body. These threads of light wandered on his body, flickering and extinguishing. Han Fei could feel that Yi Tianlong's physical strength was rapidly increasing. On the Heavenly Clan side, someone said, Brother Tianlong's talent ability has appeared. His strength has skyrocketed by 30%. Plus, he didn't use his full strength just now. This guy has no chance. Someone looked at Han Fei with resentment, hoping that Yi Tianlong would use his full strength and smash him into a meat pie. Yi Tianlong sneered. Do your best. I'd like to see what kind of heavenly talent the Fist Light Mountain has. As Yi Tianlong roared, a strange appearance appeared on the surface of his body, which seemed to be the phantom of a monster, faintly shrouding him. And at this time, Han Fei showed a disdainful smile, only to see that a pair of boxing gloves had appeared on his hands. In the previous two battles, Han Fei didn't use the god-slaying gloves because it was unnecessary. Moreover, using the god-slaying gloves would expose his identity. Han Fei's name must have been in the Heavenly Clan. As soon as the god-slaying gloves appeared, it officially confirmed the fact that he and the Heavenly Clan were enemies. Unfortunately, Yi Tianlong didn't recognize the god-slaying gloves at this time. He just felt that it was natural for a peerless heavenly talent to have a powerful boxing glove. He also had a divine weapon boxing glove, and it appeared in his hand at this moment. Swish, at that moment, Han Fei suddenly burst out at 6 times the speed of light and punched out with a great dragon fist, which contained a trace of invincible fighting intent, as if he was going to pierce through Yi Tianlong with one blow. The latter roared, and behind him, there seemed to be 10,000 beast phantoms galloping. At the same time, Yi Tianlong sneered, and with a flash between his eyebrows, an invisible fist mark seemed to merge with the fist mark in his hand. He roared, soul-destroying demonic fist. Behind him, Yi Xianling and the others were shocked. Although they looked down on the body tempering school, the power of these animals really couldn't be underestimated. This kind of terrifying power, ordinary heavenly talents couldn't resist at all. Yi Yuan and the others were also shocked. At this time, Yi Tianlong was like a demon, as if he was controlling thousands of demons, pouncing on his opponent. On the other hand, Han Fei had nothing special except for his speed. Because the power of the two was too strong, the shock waves collided, but what shocked Yi Tianlong was that at that moment, he saw that Han Fei was still smiling, as if his divine soul was not affected at all. How is this possible? On the contrary, as soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he felt his vision blurred, and he saw an incomparably magnificent figure, like a star. At that moment, Yi Tianlong only felt that he was like an ant, not worth mentioning at all. In front of him, there was a path, and he had a feeling that if he walked on this path, he would have a chance to become a god. This is the divine path? At that moment, Yi Tianlong's eyes were red. What did he see? The divine path? How is this possible? Who among the heavenly clan has ever seen the divine path? But he saw it? No, it's impossible. How can it be the divine path? I am Yi Tianlong, who is eroding my divine soul. In reality, after the attack, Yi Tianlong inexplicably went crazy, only to hear him shouting, "Impossible, it can't be the divine path. Where am I?" Suddenly, the heavenly clan seemed to feel that something was wrong. What's wrong with Yi Tianlong? Unfortunately, Han Fei wouldn't give them a chance. His fist marks were like stars in the sky. In the blink of an eye, there were thousands of fist marks. Yi Tianlong's divine soul collapsed, and his whole body struggled, as if trying to get rid of some kind of predicament. Han Fei thought to himself, this person's mind is very strong, and he even has the will to get rid of the god-slaying gloves. When he saw Yi Shuelu pull out the knife, he grabbed the void in his hand, and a spear shadow rose into the air, imprinted with heaven and earth Tao patterns. Swish! Yi Shuelu had already taken action. He wanted to save people. Fire God triple strike. However, Feng Xingliu, who was also onlookers, wasn't really here to watch the show. Since Yi Shuelu dared to take action, how could he agree? So the two of them instantly clashed. The god's sealing spear pierced through Yi Tianlong, nailing him to the bottom of the sea. Because everything happened too fast, Yi Xianling and Yi Jiajia took action one after another, only to see a blood demon standing in front of them. Han Fei summoned the two god-sealing spears again and sneered. Who dares to touch my trophies? Chapter 2295. Yi Tianlong was nailed through by Han Fei, which was unexpected to everyone. In theory, even if Yi Tianlong's talent and strength were no match for Han Fei's, it was impossible for this guy to not have any trump cards. However, just now, Yi Tianlong somehow fell into a strange state of madness and shouted that it was impossible, so Han Fei took the opportunity to pierce through him and nailed him to the bottom of the sea. Most of the spectators were at the heaven-opening state. They were surprised that Yi Tianlong was nailed by Han Fei. But when they saw that Han Fei could gather heaven and earth Tao patterns with a wave of his hand, they couldn't help but gasp. Mastering the heaven and earth Tao pattern was not something that could be achieved with just talent. It was also not something that could be mastered with a sufficient realm. You had to be able to completely integrate your great Tao into the heavenly Tao. He could transform himself into a part of the heavenly Tao at any time. Only then would he have the foundation to master the Tao pattern. Even if many people could already fuse with a part of the heavenly Tao, It did not mean that they could grasp the Tao patterns. They could only grasp a portion of it. However, they had no idea how to completely grasp or use the patterns in this world. For example, Han Fei could use it because he had the Tao Fusion book. What kind of item was the Tao melting book? It was very likely that it was a great Tao pattern technique that the gods used to suppress the divine beast in the god's ruin. However, how could an ordinary person have the opportunity to learn a strange technique like the Tao Fusion manual? Therefore, when Han Fei was familiar with the Tao patterns of heaven and earth, even Yi Xianling and the others were certain that Han Fei definitely came from a super heritage. Even in the Tian clan, there were very few divine arts that could control the Tao pattern of the heavens and earth. How could an ordinary small clan that had never produced a divine spirit have such a legacy? Therefore, at the moment when Yi Tianlong was suppressed by Han Fei, Yi Xianling immediately warned, Yi Shuelu, the other party's background should be more powerful than you think, and they have a lot of trump cards. Don't let your guard down. Unleash your quintessence to suppress them. Yi Shuelu naturally noticed this as well, so he made his move the moment Yi Tianlong was about to be suppressed. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late and was blocked by this person who played with fire. Yi Shuelu knew that these two people had extraordinary backgrounds, so he naturally used his full strength. Feng Xinglu was the type of person who would use his ultimate skill the moment he appeared. This was because he didn't seem to have any low-level skills, and relied on brute force when fighting. Boom! In the color of the void, flames spread for tens of thousands of miles. Many strange flame great techniques burst forth, and the entire sea of fire burned one's soul. There was also a flame seed that looked like a god, like a spirit within the flames. It was born from the flames, and it immediately unleashed a barrage of attacks on Yi Shuelu. Yi Shuelu, on the other hand, seemed to be very talented in protecting souls. This person wielded a divine artifact, the flowing water blade, and was not to be outdone. For a moment, the two of them were locked in a stalemate. Han Fei thought that this kind of battle was perfect for the Phoenix Star School. This guy lacked battle experience. The reason why he could keep winning was because he was too strong. He was so strong that others couldn't block his attacks at all. In reality, if he didn't use his ultimate godly skill, Feng Xinglu's power was about the same as Yi Shuelio's. The two of them fought back and forth, and the scale of their battle was far greater than the one between him and Yi Tianlong. At this moment, Han Fei looked at Yi Xianling and Yi Jiajia with a smile, and his smile gradually turned into a frown. That's not right. Logically speaking, my identity should have been exposed by now. The heavenly race definitely knows about the god-slaying gloves. Han Fei was puzzled. When he revealed the god-slaying gloves, he was already prepared to reveal his identity. This time, he came with the intention of becoming famous. It wasn't easy for him to come to the divine capital dynasty. Besides participating in the competition, he also wanted to make a name for himself. Most of the time, the reason why ordinary people didn't have great opportunities was because they weren't famous enough. Besides, he had originally planned to create a powerful identity for himself. But now, it seemed that these geniuses of the heavenly race didn't know his identity. That was strange. Did they not inform other people in the heavenly race? But no matter what, Han Fei had already chosen to attack, so he naturally wouldn't hold back. At this moment, the god-slaying gloves and the god-thought beads boosted his strength, and the art of balance borrowed the power of heaven and earth. All of a sudden, Han Fei's strength almost doubled. However, Han Fei knew that this wasn't enough. He could only seal Yi Tianlong because Yi Tianlong wasn't prepared at all. He didn't know that Han Fei had something like the god-slaying gloves. If he wasn't careful, he would end up being sealed. There was nothing to argue about. He just underestimated his opponent. Therefore, Han Fei also activated the Great Tao, but not a lot. He only doubled his strength. He couldn't fully activate the Great Tao now because his physique couldn't keep up and couldn't bear the terrifying power. Unless one day, when his body was filled with golden jade marrow, he might be able to bear the explosion of the Great Tao in his complete state. However, Yi Xianling and Yi Jiajia, who had already watched the battle, wouldn't underestimate their opponent. Therefore, as soon as they appeared, They didn't choose to fight one-on-one, but together. Yi Tianlong was already sealed. If the two of them fought one-on-one, once they were sealed, they would be evenly matched with each other. At that time, could they rely on Yuan and the others to defeat Han Fei? Therefore, they chose to join forces without hesitation. Anyway, they were women, so there was no need to care about so many rules. Winning was the key. As soon as he came up, Han Fei heard a seductive voice in his ears. It was an extremely seductive voice. Besides, he also felt that some kind of power was trying to invade his divine soul and create illusions for him. However, perhaps they didn't even know that his divine soul had been awakened and his yang soul had changed. His divine soul couldn't be affected by mere seduction and illusions anymore. Even if it could, it wasn't something that Yi Xianling could affect. However, Han Fei pretended to be stunned for a moment, and it was at this moment that Yi Xianling and Yi Jiajia felt that their opportunity had come. Yi Jiajia activated some kind of technique or great Tao and suddenly appeared in front of Han Fei. At this moment, boundless gravity fell on Han Fei. Yi Xianling, on the other hand, took out a blood-colored spear. As soon as the spear appeared, countless weird rune chains appeared in the void and were branded on it. Then, the spear seemed to cross the space and directly hit Han Fei's body. Pucci. The emperors saw that Han Fei's figure only paused in the void for a moment, and the next moment, he was suppressed by Yi Jiajia with the power of the universe and was pierced by Yi Xianling's spear. The whole process only took a moment. Someone exclaimed, That's it? Someone was surprised. Wasn't he so brave just now? How come he was killed so quickly? Someone said lightly, 2 top heavenly talents attacked at the same time, and I heard that Yi Xianling is good at illusions. It's normal that he was pierced. On the heavenly race's side, the heavenly talents all smiled. Someone laughed. This guy really thinks he's strong. He doesn't know that he's just a clown. Someone said proudly, no one can survive my cousin's god-slaying spear. This guy is dead for sure. Yi Yuan even yelled, Sister Xianling, keep him alive. He must have a lot of resources. Feng Xingliu's expression changed drastically when he saw this. He yelled, Fire God Storm, Grand Burning Sky Technique. Yi Shuelio's boundless water intense saber aura was instantly evaporated by the fire technique. The latter was horrified, but he wouldn't let Feng Xingliu leave and interfere with the battle over there. With a clink, the flowing water saber that he hadn't drawn out was unsheathed. Walala waves suddenly appeared in the air and covered the sea of fire. The two were fighting again. However, Yi Jiajia's expression suddenly changed. No, it's fake. Shocked, Yi Xianling and Yi Jiajia began to search for Han Fei's real body. Indeed, they had won too easily. It was as if this guy came to them to fight. How could there be such a good thing in the world? So, the moment Han Fei was pierced, Yi Jiajia found that something was wrong. This guy seemed to disperse on his own. Twin in one. Han Fei's figure suddenly appeared 1,000 kilometers away from the two of them. As early as the moment they made their move, Han Fei knew that the two of them would not hold back and would definitely kill him as soon as they attacked. In a situation where he was not familiar with them, why should he go up and fight with them? As soon as he came up, Han Fei roughly figured out their moves. 1,000 kilometers was covered in the blink of an eye. Yi Xianling only felt a huge force coming from behind. She tried to burst out her soul barrier to stop Han Fei, but Yi Xianling's soul barrier was pierced by a punch. Not only that, Han Fei punched 100 times in the blink of an eye. If Han Fei didn't use the god-slaying gloves, maybe Yi Xianling could block it. But the god-slaying gloves were imprinted on Yi Xianling's body. He saw a magnificent body. He instinctively thought it was a god and wanted to worship it. Han Fei held the void in his hand and a spear appeared, imprinted with heaven and earth Tao patterns. Of course, Yi Jiajia couldn't allow this to happen. Once Yi Xianling was nailed, she might not be able to win alone. After all, this person had shown extraordinary strength. Yi Jiajia directly mobilized all the power within a range of 10,000 kilometers and even deprived Han Fei of the right to borrow the power of the heavenly way. Han Fei frowned. This girl was a bit interesting. Her Tao could steal the power of the heavenly way. However, she still underestimated Han Fei. Even without the help of the power of the heavenly way, Han Fei's strength was not something she could easily overcome. At that moment, Han Fei condensed a Dao pattern from his past practice and continued to stab it. At the same time, under the void descent technique, Han Fei created a clone and blocked Yi Jiajia with a punch. Bam! Boom! At the moment when Han Fei and Yi Jiajia fought, Yi Xianling was nailed from the void to the outside world and stabbed into the seabed. The god-slaying spear was also suppressed by Han Fei. How could Han Fei let go of such a high-end war trophy? Chapter 2296. All these changes happened so fast that the others didn't have time to react. Han Fei had just been pierced through, but in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared next to Yi Xianling, summoned the god-sealing spear, and nailed it down. In most people's eyes, Han Fei nailed Yi Xianling as easily as nailing a child. But only Yi Jiajia knew that it wasn't that simple. Yi Xianling couldn't have used the power of the god-slaying spear at that moment. The reason why she didn't use it was that she didn't have time. Yi Jiajia immediately looked at Han Fei's glove. This thing was the key. Both Yi Tianlong and Yi Xianling were dazed when they were bombarded by Han Fei's fist marks. Although Yi Xianling seemed to be nailed through in an instant, Yi Jiajia still noticed this detail. At the moment when she was nailed through, she was dazed for a moment. With a thought in her mind, Yi Jiajia deprived the world of this world and gathered it on an axe. When Han Fei saw this axe, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Sure enough, Lolis are all strong. She swung the big axe and hammer. Dum, dum, dum. Han Fei's fist marks and the giant axe hit each other 100 times in a row, and Yi Jiajia said, "There's something wrong with your glove. It's not that you're stronger than us, but that your glove can hit the soul. It's a pity that I can protect myself with the power of the heavenly law, which can completely block the qi bursting out of your glove. You can't hurt me in the same way." Han Fei sneered. "Lolita, I advise you not to be too happy. Can your heavenly gate absorb the power of the heavenly law here, or can your Dao? Let me try. How far can you absorb?" With a thought in his mind, a projection appeared every 10,000 kilometers. When Han Fei's projection appeared 30,000 kilometers away, he suddenly felt relaxed. Han Fei grinned. 30,000 kilometers? Haha, I'm really curious. How much power of the heavenly law can you use in such a large range, and how much can your body bear? The next moment, a golden body 10,000 meters high suddenly appeared in the sky. Shoot! What's this? A Dharma body? What a huge Dharma body! Feng Xingliu had been a little worried just now, but now she realized how stupid she was. Han Fei was someone who could suppress a late-stage heaven opening expert. How could he be suppressed by two little girls? At this moment, looking at Han Fei's 10,000-foot Dharma form, he was instantly envious, thinking that it felt much stronger than his own Dharma form. He couldn't help but think to himself, I must fuse with the Dharmakaya and achieve my own Dharma form. On the Tian clan side, they weren't all idiots. Someone cried out in alarm, "This isn't a magical body, this is a magical image. Look, it looks exactly the same as this person." Someone was shocked. What? Dharma world? Is this person really from the Fist Radiance mountain peak? One of the onlookers was shocked. We don't even have Dharmakayas, but this kid has already created his own Dharma world? Good heavens, is this really the genius of the mountain of Fist Radiance? Could he be the direct disciple of the Fist Emperor? Speaking of which, the one who was the most shocked was still Yi Jiajia. That was because she discovered that her Cosmos technique was actually unable to suppress this fellow. She mobilized the power of heaven and earth here, trying to suppress Han Fei. At that time, Han Fei clenched his fist, and the fist mark soared into the sky. In an instant, the void exploded and ripples rolled, and Yi Jiajia vomited a mouthful of blood. Others didn't know how terrifying Han Fei was, but she did. In order to break through her Cosmos technique, first of all, his strength couldn't be lower than hers, or even at least 1.5 times or twice more than hers. Even if Han Fei activated his Dharma world, Ijiajia didn't think that his strength could exceed 50% of hers. But the fact was that she was wrong and completely underestimated Han Fei's strength. This was not the strength that a powerhouse who hadn't turned into a star realm could exert at all. The next moment, Han Fei's voice rumbled. My fists can shake the north and the south, but I have never suppressed a fierce beast lowly. Now that I've caught you, you can't run away. Han Fei turned this battle into a close-range combat again. At the full speed of light, he used the Sun God Soul attack. After the first 100 punches, Ijiajia was blasted all over the place. It wasn't until Han Fei grabbed the void, summoned the God's Sealing Spear, and nailed Ijiajia that the people of the Heavenly Clan were all dumbfounded. What was going on? Why was the peerless heavenly talent of the clan defeated? Wasn't this person not a star realm cultivator? This must be a lie, right? He must be at the late stage of the star realm, right? Ijiajia, who was nailed to the seabed by the God's Sealing Spear, had a bruised nose and swollen face. She almost went crazy. How could she let the world see her beautiful face being beaten like this? This was even more humiliating than losing a fight. However, he didn't know what kind of spear Han Fei had shot out. It pierced through him and he couldn't even move his fingers. His body couldn't even recover naturally. He was stabbed on the spear like a toothpick. Yi Xianling, who was also impaled, had the same thought as her. She was the pride of the heavens, a golden branch and jade leaves, riding on a dragon carriage, incomparably noble. How could she have expected that she would be impaled at the bottom of the sea and be observed by everyone? For a moment, her noble faith almost collapsed. However, Han Fei didn't care what they were thinking. He roared, Feng Xinglu, the so-called peerless heavenly talent will be your practice. Don't let him go, or I'll look down on you. Han Fei had already grasped Feng Xinglu's character. This guy was obedient, but he was afraid of being criticized by others. When his enemies criticized him, he would call them ants. Now, thinking that if he couldn't win he would be looked down upon by Han Fei, he didn't feel good. How can I, Feng Xinglu, lose? How could this piece of trash escape from my Phoenix Star stream? Why can Han Fei defeat 3 opponents by himself, but I still can't defeat this one? Han Fei is right. I'm just practicing. I didn't use my full strength. By the way, the battle only started a while ago. It's not that I'm not strong enough, but that Han Fei. This guy is a bit abnormal. Although Feng Xinglu was narcissistic, he knew that Han Fei was stronger than him. This was undeniable. Facing a late-stage star transformation cultivator, he was the one being hunted, but Han Fei could blackmail a late-stage star transformation cultivator. His strength was obvious to all. Thinking of this, Feng Xinglu felt a bit better. He responded, Why are you fighting so fast? I'm still warming up. I haven't fought for a long time. Let me have some fun. When the onlookers heard this, their hearts tightened. They were already in such a state, and you call it a warm-up? Do you warm up like this? However, Feng Xinglu and Han Fei came to fight together, and their strength was obvious to all, so no one took it seriously. Han Fei's side had already defeated 3 people. If he suppressed the last one, there would be no chance to fight anymore. The heaven-opening cultivators in the camp all understood that the real strong were never afraid of fighting. Especially those with powerful backgrounds, they were even more eager to fight. The people from the heavenly clans were not strong enough to satisfy him. Anyway, as long as the onlookers believed it, they didn't know that a super strong person like Feng Xinglu was so vain that he liked to brag. On the other side, Han Fei stepped across the sky. And the heavenly talents of the heavenly clans were horrified. 3 of the 4 top heavenly talents had already been nailed. How could the rest of them be a match for Han Fei? Maybe they could fight Han Fei if they joined forces and used all kinds of techniques, but they had been shocked by Han Fei's strength and naturally thought that they couldn't beat him. So when Han Fei came, many people wanted to run. Han Fei shouted, I won't kill you, but if anyone dares to run, I'll cut off the heads of the coquettish woman and the pig-headed lowly and destroy their souls. So, their lives are in your hands. If 1 runs, I'll kill 1. If 3 run, I'll kill all of them. Hearing this, who dared to run? How could he explain to the clan that they didn't have to die and that Yi Xianling and the others were killed because he ran away? Heh, if that was the case, the clan would kill him first. Different from Yiwan, someone didn't get beaten up by Han Fei when he saw Han Fei for the first time. He said angrily, "Do you know what you're doing? If anything happens to them, you'll never be able to leave the divine capital dynasty again." However, Han Fei reached out his hand and grabbed Yi Xianling's head. Bam, anyway, these people couldn't be killed under normal circumstances. Han Fei squeezed her head and crushed it. Then he looked at the person who spoke and said, "I hate it when people threaten me the most in my life. If I hear another threat, I'll kill her on the spot." Who dared to threaten Han Fei at this moment? They didn't dare to run or curse. They could only stare at Han Fei angrily. However, Han Fei acted as if nothing had happened. He pointed at them and said, "Everyone hand over all the resources you have, and the qualification token, all of them. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.